vehicle.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 574 on the calendar in the matter of Ross versus Carter. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Ross, you and Miss Carter have been having trouble for a very long time. You want to tell me how you know each other?
Okay, it all started with an ex-boyfriend that I used to have. Me and him just got into it too many times, so I told him to go back to his baby mama. That's her sister, Amete Carter, the witness.
And how long ago was that?
It's been an ongoing thing between me and him, but he's now, now in jail. So it's been 2 years me and him haven't been messing around.
All right. You have a problem with his sister?
No, it's my ex-boyfriend's girlfriend's sister.
Ex-boyfriend's girlfriend's sister.
Right.
That's you.
That's me.
In any event, according to what I read here, the two of you have mutual restraining orders against each other because there's evidently been a past history of acting out behavior on the part of both of you. And you, Miss Ross, claim that on a particular date, the defendant harassed you, damaged your car. She says you were harassing her, you damaged her car. There is a claim and a counterclaim. Tell me how long these mutual restraining orders have been in effect.
Since January the 2nd of 2002.
And tell me about this date when you claimed that your car was damaged.
On March the 6th, 2002.
All right, now I'm going to let each of you tell me your version of what happened. Go!
Okay, I was leaving my mother's house because I just got off of work. I was going to take my kids to go get them some tennis shoes, so I was on my way to my grandma's house to let my aunt know that I was coming this weekend to pick up my table. So next thing I know, I observed, this little green car behind me. So I was like, okay, why is she behind me? So then I got out my car and I took her picture.
Why did you do that?
For evidence. The police always told me to make sure I have evidence of her harassing me.
So you keep a camera in your car?
Keep a camera at all times.
So she was behind you, you stopped your car, and you jump out and you go click, 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 and then you get back in your car.
Yes.
Then what happened?
Then I proceeded to go. Then she flew around everybody else to try to get in front of me. So at that time, she finally got in front of me, started slowing down, but I seen her, so I slowed down. I said, because she's not going to catch me that way, saying that I'm harassing her. So she sat at the stop sign, just sitting there. So when I pulled up, she's getting out of her car, snapping pictures, walking towards me, telling all the other cars to go past, go on, because she just
So then she's taking your picture?
Yes.
Go ahead.
But at that time, she's steadily approaching my car. Well, I have my 2 kids in the car. So talking about, I got you now, and all other kind of little stuff, so I wasn't paying her no attention. So I went ahead, went around her. So when I got to the next block over where my grandmother stayed, I turned. Next thing I know, I'm observing her coming right behind me. So I got out my car again and took her picture. Next thing I know, I'm still watching her coming past me. She's mumbling something through her window. Then next thing I know, she tried to hit me, so I ended up jumping into my car and making a dent in my door. Then next thing I know, she just literally just turned her car into my front end and then took off. And then after that, that's when she almost hit their car. She got out her car to look at, see what was wrong with her car, and took off. So next thing I know, I'm calling the police. They came, and then they took a report. And then they asked to speak to my witnesses. And then that night...
That's not how anything happened.
Now you. I'll hear you. I'm listening.
I'm going over my sister's house, which is near Mrs. Ross' grandmother's house. I'm out minding my business because it happened on a Wednesday. My sister was supposed to go to surgery and have things done to her the next day. So to comfort both me and my sister in this predicament that we're having, I just wanted some comfort there between her and me. And we just ended up together. A block and a half up, she gets out of her car and take my picture and call me a stupid B. So when the light turned green, I sat up there and I got out my left lane and got in the right lane to make a right to go to my sister's house. So I was not following her. I don't know where she's getting this following and harassment stuff from. Miss Ross follows me up there. She takes the turn. I got out of my car and I took a picture of her. And I told her, are we going to take Kodak pictures of each other all night? I was like, leave me alone.
No, you didn't say that.
I got in my car. There's a 4-way stop sign. So I let the other cars go, thinking that maybe she was going to go where she had to go and mind her business after this little, after the picture taking. She done stopped her car, got out of her car with her car door open and started kicking my car. I stopped my car and I got out of the car and I asked her, why are you kicking my car? Why are you messing with me? She gets scared because I'm about to approach her because I was going to break her neck.
Yeah.
She gets in her car and she jumps the curb and hit my car. Then when I'm going to my car, I hear, she hit my car, she hit my car. I'm looking back, she's on the telephone calling the police like I did something. So I went up the street to my sister's house and called the police. No, I did not.
You don't speak to each other, speak to me.
So I went to my sister's house and I called the police, and the police came out there and made a report.
Okay, now which one of these witnesses doesn't know either one of you?
I don't need to know her.
Okay, so I'll hear you first. Tell me your name.
My name is Chantel Pittman.
Ms. Pittman, you don't know the plaintiff?
No, I don't.
I never saw her before this date in March.
Right, I didn't meet her until that day.
Okay, tell me what you observed that day.
Well, me and Miss Brookins was in Miss Brookins' car, and we were waiting for my daycare van to come to pick up my kids. And we seen the headlights coming, and we looked in the rearview mirror, and we was like, she just hit her car. Did you just see her hit her car?
Well, tell me exactly what you saw.
The black car was here parked. We seen the green car come around and hit the black car on the driver's side. And she pulled up behind Mrs. Brookins' car, got out of her car, left her door open, walked around to her passenger side to check to see if she had anything in her car, got back in, and when she took off, she almost hit Miss Brookins' car on the passenger side.
Would you step up here? Tell me your last name, please.
Doretta Brookins.
Miss Brookins, who was driving that day?
I was.
And you waited around to give information to the police?
Correct.
That was very nice of you.
Thank you.
If I were to ask you the same questions that I just asked the previous witness, would your testimony be the same?
Yes, it would.
Okay, thank you. You may be seated. Do you have the police reports?
Yes,
Let me see the police report, please.
that's both of ours.
And can I see the damage to your car? And the estimates, please.
Your Honor,
Yes,
can I say something?
sure.
Ms. Ross is stating that I'm harassing her because of my sister's husband. And I don't see how and why is it every time that something happens, I'm always
Because
in the
you the
middle
main
of
one.
it because I don't do
Don't
anything
speak.
to her. I'm not the only person that Mrs. Ross also harasses due to a man that she hasn't been with for the last 10 or 15 years.
Judge, she wouldn't
I
know
also
that she
have
wouldn't
a-
go to the police files.
Listen to me. Listen to me, Ms. Carter. It's clear to me that you were responsible for the damage to the bumper on her car. I'm dismissing your counterclaim because I don't believe she hit your car. The question is, are you totally responsible? And the answer is, I do not believe you are totally responsible. I believe that both of you acted badly. However, you started the trouble. You started the trouble by getting out of your car and starting to take her picture and calling her a couple of names. Instead of, you saw the green car behind you, make sure you don't go anywhere near where she's going. But two of you engaged in conduct that was so childlike. You jumped out of your car first, start snapping a picture. Then she starts snapping your picture. Then you snap her picture, then she snaps your picture. And to make matters worse, you have children in your car, acting like a fool. If you really feel as if she's harassing you, drive over to the police station.
It was too far.
Drive directly over to the police station. See if she follows you there. And if she follows you there, she's a fool. And if she doesn't, then you've avoided conflict. What you didn't do was avoid conflict.
But can I show you something else?
Yep.
This is how much she is a troublemaker. I have her little record of her history of how much of assault and battery and her
I don't have no assault and
Listen
battery.
to me. All
have
may
assault
be
and battery.
true, Miss Ross. I mean, I'm looking at your claim now. The damage to your car was only $700. The $1,000 you wanted
for the harassment because I'm
is for the
tired.
harassment. Just listen to me. If you told me that you saw her car, so you drove directly to the police station in order to avoid any possible conflict in front of your children, and she followed you and she hit your car, I would rule entirely differently. But that's not what happened. You engaged her. You engaged her, and you started the engagement by getting out of your car, taking her picture, and exchanging words with her. That doesn't excuse her conduct, but that's saying to you, you're not really being smart. If you were afraid of her,
Thank you.
you drive over to the police, and she does the same thing. I mean, she's sitting there smiling. She does the same thing. As I said, I'm dismissing the counterclaim. But I'm also dismissing that part of your claim of $1,700 that asked for $1,000 in harassment. And I'm only attributing half of the damage to your car to her. Because as far as I'm concerned, you should have kept on driving.
I did. I was going to my grandmother's house. She should have never turned down my street.
No. You should have kept on driving. You got out of your car, placing your children at risk to take her picture.
Okay, why did she get out of her car?
Listen, life is very short. You'll get lecture 304 now. Life is very, very short. You can either spend it fighting or you can spend it loving. The two of you are never going to love each other. But if you want to devote your energies to this kind of nonsense, I mean, what are you laughing about? How old are you?
I'm not laughing.
How old? Yeah, yes, you are.
No,
How
I'm
old
not.
are you?
I'm 25.
25. How old are you?
31.
Well, so you're young. You're not supposed to create friction in your lives. That's just stupid. Do you know what happens when you spend your life in conflict? You end up looking old much too soon. It's over. There's no reason for you to have any contact with each other. End it.
Yes.
Don't be
stop calling my
stupid.
phone.
Put your hand. Do I need you? I don't need you. I don't want you. Don't be stupid. End it. Put a period. No man is worth it. Husband, brother, boyfriend, whatever, especially one that's in jail.
Thank you.
Even if they're not in jail, they're usually not worth it.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
put a period and move on. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She just need to go on about her way, stop being ignorant and childish and stupid, and just leave me alone.
She's mad because I'm with a man that don't want her, ain't never wanted her, and she just sick with it. She got problems.
She trying to take up her sister's battle, but like I said, if I catch her, I'ma get her.
She's 31. She needs to move on.
Move on with her life.
Bye-bye.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Griffiths versus Giles. Step forward, please.
Alan and Tanya Griffiths are suing former friend, 32-year-old bartender Ken Giles, for stealing their honeymoon money. Ken says he didn't do it.
All right, Mr. and Mrs. Griffiths, according to your complaint, the defendant, who had been either a friend or an acquaintance of yours, agreed to be the bartender at your wedding. On the wedding bar, according to you, there were two jars. One contained a jar for tips for the defendant, and the other jar was something called a honeymoon jar, where guests would come to put money, I assume, for your honeymoon.
Yes.
Is that right? And it is your claim that the defendant helped himself to your honeymoon jar.
Yes, ma'am.
To the tune of $1,500. All right, so let's get to this very quickly. Prove it.
Well, here's a list of just the ones that I could get a hold of, what they had put in there, their phone numbers, and my witness here also seen him putting money in places where not the jar.
You never saw anything.
Not as far as him taking anything personally.
Okay, good. Step up. Name.
Trisha Good.
All right, Miss Good. Tell me what you observed with regard to this.
I saw
can.
Ken put money under the can, and then later on I seen him putting money in his pockets. Earlier before...
No, let's go slowly. You saw him put money underneath
the can.
He's standing behind the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Where did he get the money from?
The people at the wedding.
You mean people would hand him money?
They all knew that it was...
Don't tell me what anybody else knew. I'm asking you for your observations.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
You saw guests hand him money.
Yes.
And you saw him place the money under the can.
Yes.
How many times did you see that?
Once.
What else did you see?
Earlier, before that, he didn't have gas money, and then later on he had money in his pockets.
There was also a tip jar, was there not?
Yes, there was.
And people gave him tips?
I don't know.
But they might have.
They could have.
And that could have been the money that he used for gas.
Could have been.
Right. So what you actually saw was somebody hand him money. Did you see how much money they handed him?
No.
You saw a bill, more than one bill?
I didn't see. I just seen green.
You just saw green, so you don't know if it was $1 or $10.
Yeah. But his tip jar was at the front of the bar. They wouldn't have handed him the tips. They would have put their own tips in there. The donation for the honeymoon was behind the bar.
So that nobody could reach that jar?
Yes.
Nobody?
Except for Ken or Susan.
Really? Okay. Now, let's hear.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, as far as the honeymoon jar, it wasn't a donation. What they were doing was charging $2 for mixed drinks.
No, you were charging for mixed drinks. You were selling them.
Yeah, you were.
They were charging $2 for mixed drinks. So we got there, and there was no money whatsoever to bartend with. I had to ask my girlfriend here to borrow some money so we could make change for people. Okay,
That's
and
a lie.
so when we got there,
that
she gave me 10 ones, and I put it in the jar there or whatever.
What jar?
The actual bar jar. Okay, we're talking about two different jars.
We're talking about two different. One was for your tips. I assume
Yes.
that had a sign on it that says tips.
Yes, ma'am.
And the other one was a can, a coffee can.
Yes, ma'am.
Did people hand you money and say to you, put that money in that can?
No, ma'am. The only reason they ever handed me money was either for a tip or because they had bought a drink.
Okay. Did you ever take any money out of the can?
Yes, I did. I took back the $10 that
Yeah,
Susan
about
had given to us.
$1,500.
Sit down. Go ahead.
Also, I'd gone to the store twice, which I brought back receipts for Mr. Griffith. And during the course of the evening, I also informed Mr. Griffith that Tricia had been going back to behind the bar and just totally cleaning it out. She'd done that 2 or 3 times.
Well, just a second. Mr. Griffiths, Mrs. Griffiths, it's very possible that he did. I don't know. And you can't prove it. You may
Well,
assume.
people seen him.
Don't tell me what other people... I heard what she saw. She saw him take green that someone handed him and put it under the coffee can. That's what she testified to. Now, I don't know whether that money that was handed to him was intended to be a tip, and it's very possible that he helped himself to a couple of bucks out of this can. I don't know, but more importantly, this is a court, and you can't prove it. Do you understand?
Well, I could prove how much was supposed to be in there, and I could
No,
prove
you
how
can't.
much he tried to hand me.
No, you can't, sir. All you can do is tell me what the people later, after the wedding, told you.
No, a couple of them told me during the wedding. They even showed me the money they put in there before they went over there.
And when he tipped his girlfriend for helping him out that night, he tipped her with a $20 bill. Who's going to come up to the bar and order a drink and tip him $20?
I don't know.
Either do I.
I don't know. Your problem is you cannot prove it. You cannot establish what he took.
Well, see,
if he took anything, because you have no proof.
As far as him saying that she emptied it.
Get over it. You cannot prove it.
But see, when she took the money from it, she told me that she was going to empty it because she knew that something was going on.
We knew what was going on the whole time, but we weren't going to sit there and babysit because...
Then what you were supposed to do was, if you knew what was going on all the time, then what you
It wasn't.
do is
It
you
was.
take,
That was like the last 2 hours.
I'm speaking. You see my mouth moving?
Mm-hmm.
If you knew what was going on all the time, then you say, I'm taking this can away.
We didn't know all the time. It wasn't
Good.
until like the last
Well, I don't
hour.
know now. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Her son, 24-year-old accounting clerk James Ellis, for an unpaid loan to keep his car. Cynthia says it's time for James to do the right thing.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 533 on the calendar in the matter of Ellis versus Ellis. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats.
Mr. Ellis,
Yes.
this is your mom?
Yes.
How old are you, sir?
24.
I see here that you have children. How many children do you have?
4.
They all live with you?
Yes.
You hesitated for a minute. What does that mean?
Nothing. Just nothing.
Do your children live with you?
All 4
Or
of
do
them,
you
yeah.
live with your children?
Mm-hmm. Live with my children. All 4. And my wife.
Because that has something to do with this. Has your mother been helpful to you in the past?
Sort of, kind of.
What does that mean, sort of, kind of?
Well, you know, when I asked her to help me do things, when I needed it, she was there.
Did your mother work?
Not the present time, no.
Did she work when you were growing up?
Yes, she did.
This case has to do with the fact, Mrs. Ellis, that you say that your son came to you recently and
Yes.
said that he was having some difficulty with a car and that he needed some money. Is that right?
Yes.
What kind of difficulty was he having with his car?
It was repossessed again.
And how much money did he need?
$4,123.76.
And I gather from your complaint that you weren't anxious to give him that money immediately. Is that right?
That's true.
Why is that?
Because, like he said, I've helped him in the past. I'm always there for him. And the money that I would help him with, I would give it to him from my savings. It was my money. But this $4,000 that we're speaking of, that came from a credit card. That's borrowing from Paul to loan to Peter, and you have to pay that money back.
Did he come to you asking you for this money?
Yes, he did.
And what did you initially tell him?
I told him no. I told him I think I've done enough.
What did he say?
He begged me and sobbed and asked me to give him another chance, and I'll prove it to you, Mom. Just, you know, if you loaned it to me this last time, I promise you, I'm going to pay you this money back. He cried and everything, but I told him no. And when I told him no, I was so happy, I was so proud of myself that I said no. I was like, yes, I actually turned this guy down, So he left, and he went to my mom's house, and he cried to her. And I guess she's never seen him cry. So she called me and said, can you just give him one more chance? I think he's going to own up to this. I think he's going to really pay you this money back.
What kind of car was it that was repossessed?
97 Dodge Stratus.
So you ultimately gave in. And you gave him $4,123. What was the arrangement as far as repaying you?
I loaned him the $4,123.76. He says gave. I just want to correct you because you said gave. I'm sorry, but you said gave, and that's what he keeps saying gave. It wasn't gave.
Go ahead.
Okay. I loaned him the money August the 17th, and he was supposed to give me $500 every 2 weeks to be paid in full by December the 10th, and any accrued interest that was left over, he would give me that with the next pay, which was December the 24th. And I don't want you to think that I'm kind of like, well, why would you want all this money for this guy? You know, you got these kids. He has a good job, but he was getting a second job that my husband was getting for him, and he promised me that was the money he's going to pay me from.
And after I loaned him the money, no second job.
But he did make some payments to you.
Yeah.
Not exactly on time, but two of $500 in August and October, and then he gave you a payment in December of $250.
Yes.
So he repaid you a total of $1,250.
Yes.
And then what happened, Mrs. Ellis?
The date he gave me, $250, was the date that the loan was supposed to be paid off, which was December the 10th. He gave my sister the $250 and told her to tell me he would give me the rest of the money with his income tax. He got his income tax and no money.
Did you call him?
Yeah, but I was harassing him when I called him.
Well, what were you saying to him?
I need a payment. I need to pay this credit card. And he would tell me, you know, I got kids over here I got to feed, and would give me the rundown on the things that's going on in his life, but never mind what's going on in my life.
And then there came a point when he told you that you couldn't see your grandchildren?
Yeah. Every time he gets mad at me about something, he holds those kids hostage. Every time. Every time he gets mad at me about something, I cannot see those grandkids.
How many grandchildren do you have?
3 from him. I have 5 total, but I have 3 by him.
I thought he said he had 4 children.
He has a stepchild.
And did you see your grandchildren regularly before all this happened? Have you seen them
Whenever
since?
he wasn't mad at me.
Have you seen them recently?
No, I haven't seen. The last time I saw the kids were in January.
All right, Mr. Ellis, now I'll hear from you, sir.
All righty. Oh, well, I needed the money. Because, you know, I had this, like back in 1999, she bought me a car. It was a piece of crap. Broke down on me. And then, you know, I saved up some money. I said, look, I need help to get another car. So I asked her, I said, could you help me out get another car? She was like, no, 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 no. So I went and got the car on my own. Then, you know, I got in these financial situations, these bonds.
You didn't get the car on your own.
Shh, Mrs. Ellis.
He didn't get the car on his own.
Hey,
Just a minute. Just a minute. I'll get back to you.
So I went and got the car on my own, and then, you know, and then I was like, I found going to these financial situations. And then I came back to it when my car got repossessed. I said, I need you to help me get my car to repossession. You know, I begged and I pleaded. Yeah, I cried too. Because it hurt me. You know, I was real hurt.
What were you hurt about? It's a car.
No, I was hurt because, you know, this is my mom's. I'm like, you know, she should have been there for me faster. But, you know, nevertheless, nevertheless, she was there in the long run, and I got my car out. She say she, well, supposedly loaned me the money, but, you know, she gave it to me because she rightfully, you know, she owed me it, buying me that junk car.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Chrysynthia Ellis says her son James Ellis owes for an unpaid loan. James says he's got 4 kids to support.
Go ahead.
And then, you know, I gave her, I think, $500, $250, you know, to help her out, you know.
What do you mean to help her out? Help her out
I mean to help her out because she gave me the money. You know, I'm just helping out. I'm saying, look, you know, you ain't working, and here's some money to help you out. And then, you know, I told her about the income tax thing, you know, when that came around, you know, situations come up. I got 4 kids, got a wife, got responsibilities, you know, hey.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Ellis. So you have 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
How old are your 3 children?
3, 2, and soon to be 1.
Now, Mr. Ellis,
Mm-hmm.
do you make enough money to have 3 children?
I make enough to make ends meet, yeah.
When do you think it comes time for your mother to be able to put away for your mother and not to have to worry about a grown adult son who's old enough to be married, old enough to have a job, old enough to make 3 babies? When do you think that time comes?
I don't know.
Well, I'm telling you, there comes a time when children are supposed to say about their parents, listen, they've brought me to a certain point, right? My mother's not a rich lady. She should be able to put some money away so that when it comes time that she can no longer work or she needs money for her old age and her retirement, she has some money.
Mm-hmm.
She's got to stop bailing me out. You don't buy a car that you can't afford. If you have a wife, let your wife get a job instead of having another baby. You get a second job. If your wife can't get a job because she has 3 young children,
well,
because you have 3 young
right
babies,
now.
what?
She's in school right now, you know?
Well, listen, Mr. Ellis, that's fine. All of that is not your mother's responsibility. All of that is your responsibility.
Well.
And the fact that your mother, let us assume that your mother bought you a car in 1999. 1999 wasn't so long ago. According to you, you were a father in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you were a big grown-up guy. So she bought you a car in 1999, and it turned out to be a lemon. So you think that she owed you? She doesn't owe you anything. She doesn't owe you anything. She owed you to bring you along a certain point in your life, and after that, whatever she gives you is really a gift out of the goodness of her heart. But this was clearly a loan. It was a loan because you paid her back some.
That's because I was just looking out.
No.
I was looking out, being a nice guy.
No, when did you ever do that before, Mr. Ellis? I want to know when you ever did it before. When did you ever just gratuitously say to your mother, listen, here's $2,000, Mom. I want you to put it in your 401k. Well, you don't, because you don't have anything extra. With 4 children and a wife who doesn't work and goes to school, you don't have anything extra. So this money that you gave her was not an extra money that you had. It was money that you owed her. Then she started to bug you about it because she's getting the bills every month and the interest is going up, and it's on her credit card. And then you had the gall to say to her, you won't see your grandchildren. What kind of business is that? Why do you punish
it? It wasn't good business at the time.
Why do you bring your children into it? What kind of a father brings their children into a dispute like that?
I'm just saying, she's getting mad at me. I say, hey, can't see the kids.
Well, but I'm asking you, Mr. Ellis, does that sound like a mature thing to you?
Wow.
Does that sound like a grown-up thing to you?
Well,
your children enjoy their Hey, quiet, I'm speaking. Your wife may find you amusing, I don't. Your children enjoy seeing their grandmother. Why would you, as a good father, want to punish your children?
Because she's punishing me by harassing me about the money.
So, you're prepared to punish your little children because you don't like the way your mother is treating you. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're saying to me?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,873. Grow up, especially before you have any more babies.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was given, and she want to say it was a loan. It's just like a big conspiracy against me.
You have to crawl before you walk. He didn't want to crawl, he didn't want to walk, he wanted to fly, but I got mine in the end.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Akers, Buttry versus Hill. Step forward, please.
24-year-old student Christine Akers and her fiancé James Buttry are suing 42-year-old photographer Greg Hill for a refund of the deposit on their wedding photos. Christine and James say Greg botched the delivery of their engagement pictures, and they don't trust him.
All right, who's going to do the talking?
Both of us.
No, I have a feeling you are.
Okay.
You folks are engaged and planning to get married next month.
Yes, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, you hired the defendant to photograph your wedding. And he took some engagement pictures and promised them to you in a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks turned into a couple of months.
Yes.
Didn't get the pictures. And you don't want them anymore. You want your deposit back?
Yes.
And some other damages, which you're not going to get. Forget the aggravation. You didn't have the aggravation because you didn't have him take your wedding pictures yet. When did you hire him?
We hired him on September 17th.
Did you sign a contract?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the contract?
No, I do not.
No, Your Honor. We never received one.
But you signed it?
Yes, Your Honor.
That you got through the mail?
I got it the day that we took the engagement session pictures. So when I saw him, I signed it, handed it to him, and he replied that he would get me a new one in the mail.
And he did not send one back?
He did not, no.
And how much a deposit did he take from you?
We wrote a check for $614.44, which we were told was 1/3 of the total amount of our photography.
For the entire wedding?
For the entire wedding.
Okay. So on September 17th, you hired him and took the engagement pictures?
No, we took the engagement pictures on October 6th.
When did he say you would get those proofs back?
We would get the proofs back.
When did he say you would get the proofs back?
2 weeks.
Okay. What happened after 2 weeks? Then you get into the third week in October. What happened?
After about the 4th week, we tried to contact him, and we contacted him for the next 7 weeks. Reached answering machine. He would return at a house when we asked to return to work and that type of thing.
What did you say on the machine?
We just want to know where our pictures were, and you said you would get them to us in 2 weeks. It's now been however many weeks, and then give me a call, please. I'm at home. I'll be here for X amount after this time.
When did he finally get in touch with you?
Around the week of November 12th.
And what did he say?
Well, actually, we spoke to Mrs. Hill. She said she would try to get the pictures out by Thanksgiving because we were leaving to go see family. We wanted the pictures before then.
And did she get them to you by Thanksgiving?
No.
When did he finally get the pictures to you?
We finally got the pictures hand-delivered to Jimmy's work.
On what date?
November the 27th, Your Honor. I had tried to reach him prior to Thanksgiving, left messages requesting that he did not put the pictures in the mail, that we would come to his house and pick them up before we left to go out of town. Left numerous numbers for him to reach me. When I got home that day, there was a message on my machine saying that he was going to put them in the mail that evening and we would receive them before the Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving. I immediately called and asked him to not do that. We would come get them.
So he came and actually brought them to you?
The Monday after Thanksgiving.
Monday after Thanksgiving?
Yes, Your Honor. I called the Wednesday we were about to leave, the day he told us we would have the pictures by. I left a message saying that, Your Honor, we are leaving to go out of town. We wanted to get our pictures by today. This is why we asked you not to mail them. Could we, trying to reach him to maybe come by and pick them up on our way out of town.
Okay, Mr. Hill.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your answer, sir, you were going through a little internal stuff. You were downsizing your business. What does that mean, downsizing your business?
That means that I moved from a commercial location back into my home.
Well, what excuse do you have, sir, for not getting the pictures to them on time?
It was the studio's fault that we didn't get the photos to them on time. It was during this time when we were moving everything back from the commercial location to the house. It was miscommunication between the people in my office and myself. Their phone calls were returned on more than one occasion.
Yeah, but they didn't get their pictures.
They did eventually.
Mr. Hill.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any question as to why they have a lack of confidence in you to do their wedding?
I'm trying to figure out how to answer that question, Judge.
How long have you been in the business, Mr. Hill?
20 years. And occasionally problems occur.
It's not occasionally. I want to tell you something. We've done 5 weddings. 5.
Yes, ma'am.
It seems it's endemic in the photography business. You're supposed to get your pictures back, your proofs back in 6 weeks from the wedding. A year later, people are still waiting for their proofs. But by that time, they have no choice because you're the only game in town. You're the one who took the pictures. So all these young couples wait. They wait for 2 months, 3 months, and 4 months, and 5 months, and 6 months, and they don't get them back. And you guys have them over a barrel. But here, these people had a preview. You were supposed to get their pictures back to them in 2 weeks, and it took 8 weeks to get proofs, engagement proofs. These are not whole wedding pictures, but just engagement proofs. Why should they continue with your services and buy into aggravation? Why?
Because it was an unusual circumstance.
That's not their fault. They wanted their pictures. Mr. Hill, I can understand you downsizing your business, but I can't understand why downsizing your business prevents you from getting their pictures to them in 3 weeks.
I have a staff that I was dependent on to do certain things also. When you photograph a volume of weddings and portraits and children, you have to leave some things up to other people, although it is ultimately my responsibility.
Right.
And once I found out, I was told that they were getting some of their calls returned. I didn't realize it was just some at the time.
What difference does it make if they got calls? They didn't get their pictures. So if you were told that they were getting some of their calls returned, Mr. Hill, then you knew that there was a problem that they hadn't gotten their pictures. So why didn't you at that point say, I'm going to get them their pictures immediately? Mr. Hill, these people told you that they wanted the pictures, the few pictures that you had taken, so that they could take them home for Thanksgiving. They didn't get them until after Thanksgiving. I find that you breached your agreement with them. And you should have, under the circumstances, said to them, I don't want any bad feeling. It was my fault, ultimately, whether it was my employee's fault or my fault. I don't want you to be unhappy. I do a lot of weddings, I do a lot of children, I do a lot of showers. I'll eat that day if I can't rebook it. But you only hopefully get married one time, and I want you to be happy. So you have to return their money to them, sir, $614.44.
Her sister, 41-year-old Julia Wilson, for the return of rent and pain and suffering. Julia is countersuing, claiming Terry used her identity when she was arrested.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 340 on the calendar in the matter of Carver versus Wilson. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Carver, the defendant is your sister.
Yes.
You were incarcerated.
Yes.
For how long?
Probably a year and a half.
And then you were released to a halfway house.
Yes.
From what I gather, you and your sister had been sort of estranged for a while you were in jail, and you discussed with your sister moving to Colorado, her moving to Colorado, and getting an apartment or a house together and sort of building a life together.
Yes.
And she did. She relocated. You were in the halfway house. You found an apartment together, signed a lease together. And then something happened and you were not released from the halfway house.
Correct.
You believe it was something that your sister had told your probation officer, but in any event, your sister, you say, forced you to pay.
Yes, she did.
Your half of the lease.
Yes.
Even though you weren't living there.
Right.
And that's what your lawsuit is about.
Yes, it is.
Explain to me how that's her fault.
When this started out in June of 2000, we discussed the move with her coming to Colorado. And I paid the money for the house. And she came shortly after. I had like one weekend there with her, 4 hours each day. And
you were allowed out of the halfway house 4 hours a day?
And that particular weekend, we had an argument, and I told her she was not going to be able to smoke her marijuana because I was on provisions that where I could not be around drugs at all because my problems were drug-related in the past. And it seemed to be a big effect. She said no, she wasn't going to quit it. She'll smoke out in the yard. Well, it wasn't soon after that that my case manager called me into his office and told me that he was going to cancel the whole thing and that I would not be able to get out of the halfway house for a time. He didn't tell me how much time, but I had to stay at the halfway house and I could not get out. So I was crying and very upset, and I said, well, okay, then I can't get out. There's nothing I can do. Can you get a roommate? And she said, yeah, sure, I'll get a roommate. And then shortly after that, my case manager called me in again and told me that I had to pay half of the rent. And I called her back and asked her, why? Why is this? I thought she was going to get a roommate. She told me she would, and she wouldn't even talk. She was just really nasty to me on the phone. And I do have proof here that I did pay the rent, and I also have proof that I was not liable for the lease because the lease wasn't even an issue whenever I rented the house. There was no lease on the house, but she insisted to the landlord to make up a lease because she needed it for housing authorities to help her pay her rent.
How much did you pay altogether?
I paid like $2,400 altogether. I paid the initial $1,600 and another $16, so $32.
$1,600 was what? Was
the original. That was the first payment on the house, which was first in security. I've got that receipt here. Then I've got 4 more receipts for 4 more months of half of the $800 month rent, which is $400 each month.
All right, Miss Wilson. I want you to tell me only what happened as a result of your sister telling you she could no longer come to live with you because she wasn't going to be released. So that was beyond her control.
Well, I've got emails that shows our correspondence, and she told me that I told her she needed to find me a roommate if she couldn't live with me, and I gave her the...
She doesn't have to find you a roommate. Why couldn't you find your own roommate? Why wouldn't you want to find your own roommate?
Well, because I had health problems, and it was very complicated. Also, we mentioned the... and I did smoke pot at the time. I do no longer do that. That was stupid, and I don't want to be a bad influence on my daughter.
So, who else lives in the house?
Just me and my daughter. My son was there at the time.
And how old is your son?
My son is now 17.
So that there were 3 of you and 1 of your sister.
Right.
Why should she pay half the rent if she's only 1 person?
Because she agreed to. When I came out, we had a limited amount that we were living on, $512 a month. And I told her this is what I could afford to pay every month. She could have found a cheaper place. I couldn't even get housing authority to okay this house because it was so bad. The floors were caving through. There was cracks in the wall. I fell through the steps and hurt myself. I couldn't get housing to okay it. So I got out as soon as I could, which was in December. She paid for 4 months, which is $400 each month, which is $1,600.
But what about the $1,600 security?
I paid. I've got the receipts. I paid my half.
And how much was your half?
My half, there was $800 security. I paid $400. And $400 for the first. So it was the first and last. And I paid the deposit myself. She didn't pay any of the deposit.
I've got a receipt that I paid the first and last right here
right.
from the landlord.
And I've got a receipt that shows I paid her back for my half.
Okay. I have this and this from the landlord.
And I've got the lease in her name that she signed before I got here.
What efforts did you make to find a roommate?
To be honest, I didn't, because the house was so run down. And
But you did not?
I didn't.
Okay, can I see the receipt that you gave her for the $800?
It's all stapled in a pile. And I got the emails too, and I highlighted the parts that I was talking about. And they turned her down to get out because they told me she was a flight risk because I called them myself.
That's not true. She wasn't released.
That's correct.
So there was an impossibility of performance of her for the contract.
The whole deal with her was to get a place that housing would okay so that I could get their help, and they would not help me with this house. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made her liable if I could have gotten
Do you have
help.
anything from housing that says that the house was inappropriate?
No, because they gave me, it says that the windows have to be secure, that you have to have fire alarms, that the floors have to be...
Because the landlord suggests that you lost your security deposit because the house was left a wreck.
Yes. No, I cleaned the house.
No, the landlord suggests that you lost your security deposit, and I assume you didn't sue the landlord for your security deposit back.
Yeah, I'd only paid $200, so no, I didn't.
You only paid $200?
Yes.
I paid $800.
Well, she paid $800.
No, we paid first and last. That wasn't a security. I mean, he might have worded it that way, but when I gave him notice, he used that last $800 for my last month's rent.
I understand that. He may have used it, but that was her money.
Well, yeah, it was half her money.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Terry Carver says her sister Julia Wilson owes for the return of rent. Julia is countersuing, claiming Terry used her identity when she was arrested for possession of crack.
All right, let's get to your counterclaim, Ms. Wilson, which I assume you want to pursue.
Yes, ma'am.
Your lawsuit suggests that your sister, in 1997, when she was arrested, used your name and identification. Tell me what happened.
She was arrested in 1998. I didn't find out about it until a year ago when I registered to vote. They said that I was a felon, that I couldn't vote. And she's got, that's me, Julia Pendleton, that's my maiden name, and this is my sister. And she was arrested for crack and possession of paraphernalia. And she had a broken jaw, so I hit her with a 2x4. And so due to this, I couldn't vote at first. I had to carry around this from the Tampa Police Department saying that there's no warrant out for me, and I've never been arrested, and I've never been fingerprinted, and it was humiliating and degrading, and it's still, Julia Pendleton will always be her alias.
You have
always.
been arrested.
Never.
Well,
Yes,
she's
you
been
have.
arrested before. Ms. Carver, did you, in fact, use your sister's identity?
Yes, I did. In 1997, I did. And I spoke with her about it, and I confessed to her about it. And
When?
When I found out
in
about it.
1998.
A year later?
Yes, and we did discuss this, and I told her, and I have felt very bad about this whole thing. I know it was wrong, and yes, I was on drugs, and I did a lot of crazy things. I have a nasty past. But she said that she understood why I did it. She said that she loved me, and she forgave me. And now all of a sudden, it's all back up. It's like, you know, my past is being thrown in my face. This is 3 years I've worked hard to change my life. And it's like it's constantly, every time she gets mad at me, she throws this up and shows me that nasty picture.
You sued me.
I'm sorry, but I just can't deal with it. And, you know, I want to get this over with because I have a nasty past, and I'm sorry.
Well,
But she forgave me, I thought.
3 warrants out for her from Florida right now. And there's a warrant out for her in Tampa. So that's 4 warrants from Florida, active warrants for her arrest.
If they were active, I wouldn't be here right now.
I can give you the VOP numbers right here.
Like to see them?
And I only found out about it when I voted. It's in that packet where it shows that and she said she'd take care of it. I'd given her a year and a half to take care of it, and she hasn't made one phone call to get it taken care of.
What are the warrants for?
Violation of probation for grand theft and also possession of crack and bad check ring.
You know about these warrants?
Yes, yes, I do. And the grand theft was taken care of years ago. That one was from like 1992.
And the others?
The others were taken care of. The violation of probation was still active as far as I knew, but then my parole officer now said that there was nothing on the NCIC against me right now. Otherwise, they would not have allowed me to come here today.
No, they just wouldn't have extradited you because you're not worth it.
Ms. Carver, you don't mind if Officer Byrd gets in touch with your probation officer to make sure that these warrants are still not outstanding, so I'm going to ask you to wait when court is over.
Yes, ma'am.
You give the probation officer, I'm sure he has the number, a call and ask if any of these warrants are still extant.
Sure thing, Judge.
Ms. Carver, my initial order was going to be in your favor for $1,200 for the rent that you paid. But the fact that you were arrested and used her identification without her permission, even though she forgave you,
right,
she may have forgiven you until you filed a lawsuit against her.
Right.
And now she said, well, now that you filed a lawsuit against me, I want to be compensated for the embarrassment, the humiliation that went along with this identity theft, which is
Right.
really what it was.
Yes, ma'am.
You had forgiven your sister.
Yes.
Okay. Until this lawsuit.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're even. Who are you living with?
Myself.
Good luck. Check with Bird. That's
Thank
all.
you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it's fair because I know what I did to her was wrong. I don't hold it against her. I've worked really hard for 3 years to straighten out my life, and I just wish it was not there to haunt me.
I hope she gets her life on track and does good.
We called your probation officer and everything is fine. Okay, so
Thank
you're free
you.
to go.
Thank
God
you
bless
very much.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Warren versus Quintel. Step forward, please.
26-year-old customer service rep Lakeisha Warren is suing her former friend, 28-year-old maintenance worker Andrew Quintel, and his mother Joan Quintel. Lakeisha says Andrew owes for unpaid loans and for kicking her car. Andrew has a countersuit for harassment.
Miss Warren, Mr. Quintel was your boyfriend for a while. According to your complaint, you made a series of loans to him.
Well, no, we weren't boyfriend and girlfriend, but I did make a series of loans to him.
He was a friend of yours?
Yes.
And in addition, at one point you say that out of anger and rage when you refused to loan him your car, he kicked it, causing some damage.
That's correct.
Why don't you have a seat?
Thank you.
All right, when was the first loan that you made to him?
12/27 of 99.
And how long had you known him before December of 1999?
About 4 years.
And tell me about how he approached you with regard to this money.
Well, his job is like temporary, seasonal, so he didn't have any money. And since I worked full time, then he asked me, could he get a loan?
You have a canceled check?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please?
I actually have 3 of them and 1 more.
So you have 4 checks?
That's correct.
Okay. The first check that you have is $19.99 for $200, and you made this check payable to his mother.
Yes.
Why?
Because he didn't have a banking account to cash the check.
Then I see checks in the year 2000. So after he didn't pay you back the December loan, you gave him more money in February of 2000.
Yes.
Then there's another check here in April of 2001 for $1,500.
Yes.
Well, tell me about that one. That's made out to cash.
I went to the bank and cashed the check in the pretense that he would pay me back on his next work day, which was the 10th.
In April of 2001, did you take a $1,500 cash loan from the plaintiff?
No, ma'am.
You know anything about $1,500?
No, ma'am. That's new to me.
Well, let's get back to the $280. $280 that's owed for a couple of years now. She gave you this money. This is clear. These checks were written out to your mother. Were these loans for you?
Well, ma'am, me and Miss Warren, we were friends for a while, so I mean...
Could you answer my question?
Huh. Yeah, that wasn't a loan.
What was it?
I can't exactly remember. It's been more than a couple of times that she's given me money or I've given her money. It's been over 6-7 year friendship, so I mean...
Okay, let me hear about the car.
It was kicked on the right side and the passenger side. He tried to let the air out of the tires, too, because his friend had dropped him off.
Tell me about that incident in February of 2000.
I was at work. I was working 6:30 to 2:30. He came because he wanted to use the car to, I guess, to run some errands. I told him no. He tried to let the air out of the car. He kicked the car so hard the rubber fell off.
Now, after this incident, according to your paperwork, you gave him $1,500 in cash.
That's correct.
Why would you do that?
Stupid.
You have a counterclaim for harassment.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to tell me what that's about.
Basically, I tried to end our friendship.
Why is that?
Oh, because I had, I got a new girlfriend.
What do you mean a new girlfriend? I thought the plaintiff wasn't your girlfriend.
She wasn't my girlfriend.
So?
But
So you got a
she was
girlfriend?
a friend of mine. Yeah, I got a girlfriend.
And?
So the friendship started to deteriorate, meaning less and less time speaking and talking and being friends, and then nothing at all. And when this came about, there was numerous, phone calls and stuff to my mother's house when I was staying there at times, of hanging up in all hours of the night and during the day.
Well, why didn't he just leave me alone then? How can you stalk someone if they... Okay.
If you tried to stop it, why did you still continue to take money from her?
We were still friends, I
What's
would
his
try to
definition?
stop it.
I don't want...
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, we were friends, and it would stop for a while, and then it would go on again for a while.
He's confused.
I'm confused.
Well, basically,
Quite
ma'am,
frankly,
basically what
Basically,
it is
we
we were
slept together, and that was it. That's it.
Shh, quiet.
Well, by her saying that, then you know why a lot of this stuff was going on then when I decided not to deal with her.
If you interrupt again, aside from the fact that you haven't proven your case, I'm going to throw you out. Do you understand?
Okay, go ahead.
Good. I have some advice for you and for your mother. Change your phone number and unlist it. And if she's being a nut, then you might just have to do that.
I would like to say I'm not calling those people.
I think that you... I should listen to me, Miss Warren. I believe that you're calling.
No, because someone's calling my house at all hours of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning,
I
hanging
think
out.
that probably, maybe his girlfriend is doing that. Are you telling me that you did not call more than 2 or 3 times a day, ever?
No.
Do you have any proof, Mr. Quintel or Mrs. Quintel, that the plaintiff called your home or place of business in the last 6 months? Because she says she has not. You have proof?
I have got...
No, she just has times and dates that she...
the times and dates that she has called.
No, I have something from the phone company.
They don't have it.
So you don't have any proof?
No, it's my...
Okay. So far, Mr. Quintel, based upon the evidence that I've heard, you owe the plaintiff $30. That's all she can prove. The other checks have no indication as to what... I'm speaking.
What about his harassment?
I've dealt with his harassment. I think, Miss Warren, that you have to get over it.
I am over it.
Good. Very good. Your case is dismissed with the exception of $30, which you have, in fact, proven. And with regard to your harassment, you have no proof of harassment.
Well, that's because they don't let incoming calls.
What do you want me to do about that, sir? Proof is what you need in court. And I suggest that if a relationship, a friendship, an intimacy is over, you move on with it, both of you. Yeah. And the problem is, if you did, in fact, take this money from her, and I'm not sure whether you did or whether you didn't, but that is, of course, a possibility, she would be doubly angry if you dumped her for somebody else. We understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So maybe if you did, in fact, take money from her that you did not return, and if you want this harassment to stop, maybe you should give her back the money. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you don't, she just may continue to make your life miserable. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye and good luck.
Parties are excused. Let's step back.
Because her 16-year-old daughter, according to you, stood you up for the prom.
Yes.
For your senior prom. And you had a lot of expenses, and you believe that her mother is responsible for her standing you up.
No, not necessarily, Your Honor. I don't
Well,
feel
she's
that...
responsible because you can't sue her daughter, so you have to sue her mother. It also says that her daughter did not stand you up, that you didn't should, but she has a substantial counterclaim, and her counterclaim is that since you believed you were stood up for the prom, you have embarked upon a course of conduct that amounts to harassment and defamation of her daughter's character, which forced her to leave school because she flunked all of her finals, and it became a catastrophe, and she has a counterclaim. When did you invite Dana to the prom?
About May 20th.
Did you do it in person?
No, ma'am. I was introduced to her through a friend of mine. It was her best friend, and I was on the internet, and she instant messaged me. She sent me a message, and...
Who did?
Diana.
Diana sent you a message?
Right.
Saying what?
Just starting a conversation, just, hi, my name is Diana, something to that effect.
So you didn't ask her to the prom?
I did. Eventually, I did.
In person or over the internet?
Over the internet and in person.
Is that right?
I don't remember him asking me in person to prom, no.
How do you believe he asked you to the prom?
Over the internet, we were discussing the fact that he needed to date, and he said, you know, do you want to go with me, basically? And, I said, And
what did you say?
I said, okay.
You said, okay, so now you had a date. And you knew when you go to the same school?
Yes.
So you knew when the prom was?
Yes.
Okay. So you had to buy, you rented a tux?
No, I bought a tux.
Bought a tux. Figure stopped growing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Buy tickets?
Yes, Your Honor.
Rented a car?
No. I was gonna drive.
Okay. Tux, tickets. What else?
I also had dinner reservations. There was no fee for making the reservations, but there was for canceling reservations.
And what were all your expenses?
My expenses totaled to be, I believe, about $500 and some odd dollars.
How did you end up going to the prom, Mr. Banks?
No, ma'am.
Did not?
No.
Tell me what happened. What was the date of the prom?
Saturday, June 4th.
And just prior to June 4th, when had you last spoken with Diana?
June 3rd.
Where did you speak to her?
I spoke with her at school.
What did you say to her, and what did she say to you?
I informed her that I'd be getting everything ready, and
Did she tell you what color her dress was?
Yes, it was pink.
Did she tell you what kind of flowers she liked?
No, ma'am.
Did you get the flowers?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of flowers did you get?
I got a bouquet of roses, and I got a corsage and a hand thing. I don't know.
The whole 9 yards.
The whole 9.
Did you tell her what time you'd pick her up?
Yes, Your Honor. I told her I'd be there to pick her up at 4.
So what happened, Mr. Banks?
Saturday, I had been running around picking things up, doing everything, getting everything ready. I hadn't spoken with her, but I had been speaking with her best friend, the one that set us up, and my best friend, because we were going to double date to prom. I had been with her friend's date all day, and I was on my way to pick her up, and I got a phone call from her friend saying that she had an allergy attack and she couldn't go to prom.
What time was that?
I'd have to say about 3:50.
Go ahead.
I was getting ready for prom at about 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Got dressed, went and got my nails done, and I made my hair appointment, and went and picked up my dress. When I was getting my nails done, I did have an allergy attack, and I went home and I tried to call John after talking to my mom. I called him, and his sister answered, saying that he would be out with friends all night. So I decided, okay, I'm going to stay home for a while. A friend of mine called and said, Diana, aren't you going to go to prom? And I said, no, I don't feel good. She says, would you like to come over, hang out, and we're not going to go do anything? And I said, okay. We ended up going over to another friend's house, just relaxing and watching movies the rest of the night, and we fell asleep.
Well, that's pretty outrageous, my dear Diana. That's pretty outrageous of you. You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
You agree with I disagree.
Excuse me, I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to your daughter, whose conduct was outrageous. Now, if you have an allergy attack and you are bedridden, that's one thing. But to go over to a friend's house, hang out and watch a movie is something entirely different. And I would be angry, too, if I got stood up at the last minute.
I had not yet given my permission for them to go.
I don't care.
Okay.
Whether you gave your permission or not. Did she use her own money to buy the dress?
Yes, she did.
And you didn't know about it?
I did know about it.
All right. And when you found out about it, did you say to her, I haven't given you permission?
Yes, ma'am.
When she went to get her hair and nails done, did you say to her, don't bother to have your hair and nails done because I haven't given you permission?
What I said was I haven't yet met Mr. Banks and I haven't given my permission. I need to meet him.
Miss Helsa, it's not an excuse. I'm saying that your daughter's conduct was reprehensible for a 16-year-old. She stood him up for his prom.
Okay.
And she stood him up not because she was sick, because she decided she didn't want to go. And she went to a friend's house and hung out with friends. And that is reprehensible.
Is that what you did?
No.
Is that what you did?
That is what I did.
You didn't know that?
Did you stand him up because you didn't want to go, or did you stand him up because you went and had an allergy attack and then went over to Julie's house?
It was because I had an allergy attack and my friend had wanted me to come over because she knew I wasn't feeling well and wanted to hang out.
Listen to me. If you have a debilitating allergy attack, you stay home. Go ahead.
That Saturday was prom, June 4th. June 5th, I broke my rib, June 5th playing basketball, and so June 6th, I stayed home, which was a Monday. I called her best friend on the phone. We talked about it because she felt bad as well because she set us up together. And I decided to call Mrs. Helser, and we spoke on the phone for a while. She was a really nice lady, and she also felt that what she did was inappropriate. And I know that she's not legally obligated to pay me back because, you know, it's an agreement to go to a social event and that's not a contract. However, her mother being of age and me being of age, she did make a verbal contract over the phone, and I have a witness here. Her best friend is here to testify because she was on the phone when I called her.
What did her mother say?
We spoke about what Diana really did on prom night.
Well, what did you say to her mother? Her mother's here. She's a party. You can tell me what you said to her mother.
I told her that I had an agreement to go to prom with her, and she informed me that she was aware of that Diana actually had an allergy attack, and I told her no, that Diana actually decided to spend the day with her boyfriend because I guess apparently she got a boyfriend that morning, and he asked her not to go.
She got a boyfriend that morning?
Yeah, Saturday morning she got a boyfriend, and she decided, and he asked her not to go. So, you know, and that's perfectly fine. But
Are you saying that somebody knows that? That you have a witness here?
That I was on the phone and that she told her that? Yes, I have a witness here.
I'd like to see the witness.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes.
State your name for the record.
Kayla Brett.
Kayla, are you a friend of hers?
Not anymore, but I was.
Were you the girl who was supposed to double date with them?
Yes.
You had originally set them up? Did you have a conversation with Diana with regard to why she didn't go to the prom with him?
Yes, I did. I called her to make sure that she was ready to go because John was on his way, and she had informed me that she did not want to go.
Did she say why she didn't want to go?
She said she had an allergy attack, but as I continued to talk to her later on that day, before my date came to pick me up, she told me that, or I think it was June 5th, that she told me she had spent the night at her boyfriend's house.
What boyfriend?
His name is Jason.
So she said she spent the evening with Jason?
Yes.
Prom evening with Jason?
Yes. She also had, there's a website called MySpace. I don't know if you're familiar. It's
I don't do that machine.
It's a website where you go and you can write journal entries on there, leave comments for friends, and post pictures up there. She had left a blog explaining what she had done that day, and she said that she was at a friend's house roasting marshmallows and she had spent the night there. That's basically confirmed that what she was doing, and I did have a conversation with her, and I was quite upset, and I told her everything, how messed up it was that she had done that.
That's pretty messed up. Did you tell your mother that? Look at me. Did you tell your mother you were going to spend the night with Jason?
I told my mom I was going to spend the night over at Julie's, and I told my mom that we were going over to Jason's to watch a movie. And
your mother just said the word Julie. I never heard your mother say Jason. Your mother was whispered to you, you went to Julie's.
I did go to Julie's, ma'am. We went over to Jason's, who was not my boyfriend.
Just a second. So from Julie's house, you went to Jason's house? Mm-hmm. Didn't have an attack in between getting from Julie's house to Jason's house, did you?
They're neighbors, no.
Didn't have an attack between Julie's house and Jason's house, did you?
No, ma'am.
And she did call me and checked in, and she called at midnight and let me know that they were just about to finish up a movie and that she would be back at Julie's by 1.
When you spoke to Mr. Banks on the phone 2 days later, did you tell him that you would compensate him for his expenses?
No, ma'am, I did not.
What did you say to him?
I said I needed to see receipts.
So you did discuss expenses?
We discussed expenses.
Fine, and you said I needed to see receipts.
Before I would even consider a discussion.
I don't believe you.
Seriously.
I don't believe you. Yep, I believe that you said to him, I will pay those expenses, but I have to see receipts.
I have emails here where he's saying that I agreed to pay $270 for prom, tight. Diana said, quote, Diana said she's going to pay me $270 for prom, hit me up. And then to Kayla, who responded, I say $300 even, what's an extra $30?
Listen, what I said to you was you had a discussion with Mr. Banks, and you are under no legal obligation. I don't believe you are under a legal obligation, but for the fact that you agreed to pay him.
I didn't agree to pay him.
Your Honor.
Just a second. In order to have a contract, Mr. Banks, let me explain something. It gets to be a little bit tricky. There has to be, in order to have a valid contract, there has to be some consideration. That means that each person is giving something. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
What would be the consideration, in your judgment, for Ms. Helser to make an agreement to pay you any part of your prom expenses?
I think she felt morally obligated. She still stated to me that Diana had just gotten a job. I didn't know Diana had a job. She said Diana had just gotten a job and that she'd make Diana pay me back my money as long as I had receipts. And I have receipts here right now.
Just a second. So she said she would make Diana pay you back?
Yes, Your Honor.
I believe you.
18-year-old John Banks Jr. says 16-year-old Diana Helser stood him up for his prom. Diana and her mother Lori are countersuing for the cost of summer school classes and defamation of character.
Go ahead.
I was on the other line. He had three-wayed Miss Helser. While I was on the phone, she did say that Diana would pay for the expenses out of her own paychecks because she had just gotten a job.
That's not true. What I said was I would consider based on seeing the receipts. And whether or not you were on the line.
Miss Helser?
Yes.
I'm going to flip over for a moment to your counterclaim, which I'm prepared to hear in 30 seconds or less. He's got a claim for maybe $500. He's got receipts that totally says maybe $500. You have a $4,000 counterclaim because, yes, according to you, your daughter was harassed, defamed, etc. She flunked all of her finals, all because of what he did. So you want to get there, please? Diana,
Yes, ma'am.
Start with the ad.
I had been on MySpace and I saw a ad that Kayla had posted about paying people to kick my...
Read it directly. Justice Hyde, you don't have to read it to me.
Okay.
What does that have to do with him if Kayla wrote something?
John had confronted some girls at school about...
Don't tell me any hearsay. I don't want to hear
Signed
any
it.
hearsay.
See it.
He had been talking to Kayla on the conversation that I have in front of me about two girls that are going to beat my... and that basically I would look better if my was kicked.
What else?
Okay. In this email, he's saying that she'll look even worse after getting her beat. The girl that's going to beat her is Jason's ex-girlfriend, who's because her and Diana used to be friends, and she thinks that's f***ed up, that she's with her ex. Oh, well, whatever the reason is, she wants to beat her. It'll work. Hit me back.
What does that have to do with him?
This is
That's
his
what he
word
said.
saying that
I don't care.
he's
What does
got
that have
two
to do with
girls.
him? According to that email, Jason, the new boyfriend, had an ex-girlfriend, and the ex-girlfriend of Jason is going to beat her up.
He's got two girls at school ready to beat my daughters.
No. Listen to me. What you just read to me was that the girl is Jason's ex-girlfriend who is angry with her. He may not discourage it. He may even like it. But that's what you just read to me.
I disagree.
Well, I don't care what you agree with, Miss Helsa. I would listen to you if you took responsibility for your daughter's bad behavior and said to me, listen, this was a teenage thing. I feel responsible for my daughter's bad behavior. Blew him off, and he was a very nice young man. And
I didn't know
I'm
that.
speaking. I'm speaking. Well, he was a very nice young man. He called you 2 days later. He called you most respectfully. Otherwise, you would have hung up on him. Called you most respectfully and said to you, this is what your daughter did, and it was not the right thing to do. So he was most respectful. And if you came into court, or didn't even have to come to court, if you said to him, look, I think what my daughter did was reprehensible, and I'm going to do the best I can to cover your expenses, and I'll make my daughter pay me back for whatever your costs were, because what she did was immature. She's only 16. But also unkind. And I don't raise my child to be unkind, an unkind human being, then I would have respect for you instead of making excuses.
I'm not making excuses.
You did make excuses, because I didn't hear you say to me at any time, he's a nice young man, he tried to do the right thing. My daughter did the wrong thing. My daughter was not hospitalized. She did not seek doctor's counsel that day or the next day. She went out with her girlfriend, Julie, and her new boyfriend, Jason, and they hung out together until after midnight, and it was not the right thing to do when he was supposed to pick her up at 4 o'clock, and between 4 o'clock and midnight, she was not, I'm speaking, and between 4 o'clock and midnight, she was not in an emergency room.
We did not have any idea when he would arrive to pick her up.
Madam, you are operating somewhere in La La Land. Your daughter knew he was going to pick her up at 4 o'clock.
Did you know that?
No, ma'am.
Yes, you did. Because you spoke to her and you were supposed to double date. So don't give me baloney. Let me see the receipts, please. Did you flunk your classes?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you leave school?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what happens when you do the wrong thing. You didn't give the flowers to anybody else, did you?
No, Your Honor.
You're even, my dear, going to pay for your own flowers, because I think that your mother made an agreement with him to do that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $415. That's all. Thank you.
Crystal Hardison is suing fellow motorist Robert Jarvis for vandalizing her Ford Explorer by kicking it. Crystal claims her mother witnessed the incident.
Ms. Hardison, what kind of car do you drive?
It's a 2005 Ford Explorer.
95 Mitsubishi Galant.
What was the date of this incident?
June 2nd.
And you were going into a drugstore to get a prescription filled?
Exactly.
And what were you going to do there, Mr. Jarvis?
I was pulling in to get her my fiance a drink and a candy bar.
Was she with you?
Yes.
And you were both going to the same store, so you pulled in first.
Yes.
And it is your claim that Mr. Jarvis intentionally not only spit on your car, but also dented it.
Yes.
Mr. Jarvis says he might have spit on it, not intentionally, but he certainly didn't dent it. And your mother was with you?
Exactly. And my 11-month-old son.
Well, he's not here to testify, but your mother certainly is. When you went into the store, Miss Hardison, your mother remained in the car?
Exactly.
And when you went into the store, did your fiancée remain in the car?
Yes, ma'am.
She pulled in first.
She was already parked.
Tell me what she was doing, Mr. Jarvis.
Well, as I was pulling in, I was waiting on her for about 2 to 3 minutes while she was brushing her hair with the door open in the parking place.
So you were waiting to pull in because she had the big door open for this SUV, brushing her hair?
Yes, ma'am.
How long were you waiting?
2 to 3 minutes tops.
Did you honk the horn?
No, I was just sitting there waiting to get in, being patient.
Why were you brushing your hair?
I'm pretty vain. So before I go anywhere, I always put my makeup on, brush my hair.
You were going to pick up a prescription.
Exactly. And that's my nature. If I'm going to a local store, I'll put clothes on, do my hair, and put my makeup on.
Hadn't you done all that before you went in?
I sure
before
did,
you
but
got
I
into
just
the
wanted
car?
to make sure everything was straight.
Didn't you see Mr. Jarvis waiting for you?
At the time that I opened my door to get my brush out my purse, no, I didn't.
But there came a time when you did see him waiting for you.
I saw a front end of a car behind mine, yes.
And you continued to finish brushing your hair and then you put the brush back?
No. Once I saw the front end of the car, I said, oh, he's waiting, and I closed my door and went directly into CVS.
What happened when you came out?
I got to my driver's side door, and I saw there was spit on the window. I opened my door. I said, Mom, somebody spit on my window. And she can tell you the rest.
Step up, please. What is your last name?
Durante.
Tell me what happened that day on the 2nd of June in the parking lot.
Okay, on the 2nd of June, my daughter had to go to the pharmacist to pick up a prescription. And she got out of the car, opened the passenger side.
That's we got past the fact that she was
Okay.
brushing her
When
hair
she-
to make sure she looked perfect.
Okay.
Never know who you're going to meet in the pharmacy.
Exactly.
Yes, Your Honor. Okay, Crystal came out. She says, Mom, who spit on my car? I said, don't worry. I got his tag number. I was sitting in the car on the passenger side, watching an incident on Route 1 to my right, and I see this man walk up to the car and just cover the window with spit. I said, I'm going to get his tag number. I went to get my purse. When I went down to get my purse, the whole car, Judge Judy, just like, yes. I looked up, I saw him, I heard his door, bam, slam. He was going, he closed his door and walked behind his car and got into the driver's side.
Okay,
And-
so a passenger door slam, and then he walked around to get into the driver's side?
Yes.
And the passenger side door was where your car was?
Yes.
Got it. Now, do you have any proof of damage to your car?
Yes, I do.
Because, Mr. Jarvis, I'm going to save you the trouble, sir. According to your answer, you were having sinus problems that day, so
Yes,
you
ma'am.
spit.
Yes.
You don't know where it landed.
No, I didn't have no intention of spitting on a vehicle. No.
It was just a bad sinus.
Yes, I had sinuses all
And
like that.
you caused no damage to the plaintiff's car.
Absolutely not.
Now I'd like to see the... Okay. See, I'm going to saved you all that trouble.
Your car's green.
My car's green.
But your boot isn't damaged.
And besides, my car door don't go that high.
It may not have been your car, sir.
And I was never on that side of the vehicle. I was driving.
Mr. Jarvis, what you're asking me to do is to say to this lady that she's lying. Now, common sense, which is really what we're about here, suggests to me that you were annoyed at this young lady.
No, actually, I wasn't.
Well,
I was being patient.
Well, listen. Then you are the only one I know who, under those circumstances, wouldn't be annoyed. I would be infuriated.
But to be cussed and belligerent.
Just a minute. I would be infuriated if I was sitting there patiently and somebody was not just putting a baby in a car, because that you wait for, adjusting a car seat or whatever, but somebody standing there with an open door, primping and brushing their hair while I'm waiting to get into a parking space would rile that out of me. I can't even tell you what it would do to my husband.
Can I speak?
Sure.
Can I have her come up?
If you want to.
I'd just like to say that night when the police contacted us, the only thing that they said was that he spit on the window. When he called back to the police department, the police officer said that this was ridiculous and dropped it. 30 days later, we received it stating that there was damage. Why that night? Was there no record at the police department
I
of
have
any
no
damage?
idea. Maybe they couldn't see it.
And she drove all the way home and the spit stayed on the window?
Listen to me.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Does she listen to me? my
Free
dear.
money. That's
I'm
what they're
speaking.
trying to get.
Does she look psychotic to you? No, listen to me. Not the daughter who was primping, who has to comb her hair before she goes to pick up a prescription. I'm talking about her mother.
I'm going to tell you, I'm a nurse. People are psychotic all the time and they don't look
Listen
it.
to me. Well, listen. I've been around twice as long as you have. This lady is not psychotic. This lady did not take down your tags and report this matter to the police because she was having a psychotic episode. That's my judgment. Now, let me see how much it costs to fix your car.
Okay. I have two estimates.
You have a 10-year-old car.
$578 for Windex is a little ridiculous.
Oh, it has nothing to do with Windex.
There's
It
no
has-
dent caused by him. That is definite.
That's just trying to get free money, is what it is.
I never got out that car, so nobody was ever on that side of the car at any point. I was in that passenger side of that car.
Nobody suggested that you did any damage to the car, madam. Cheaper of the estimate is $369.80. Is that right?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $369.80. That's all.
Parties are excused.
Deborah Skalkos is suing 9-year-old Russell Bauscher Jr. and his mother, Christy, for damage to her car. Deborah says Russell dinged it with a shopping cart.
Miss Galkos, is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
According to your complaint, this young man right here accidentally dented your car with a shopping cart.
Correct.
You believed he and his mother are responsible
Correct.
for the dent. Miss Boucher says neither she nor her son are responsible for the dent on your car. So tell me where you were when this happened and when.
Okay. On the evening of April 20th, I was driving my car in a shopping area, and as I was getting ready to cross a speed bump, this little boy here, he yells, "Watch out," and a shopping cart came crashing into my car. And he says, "I'm sorry, ma'am, it slipped out of my hand." And there were cars behind me, and I wanted to pull into a parking stall to get out and look at my car. And I did, and there was a small dent in my car, and then I tried to find the little boy, and he was gone, and I didn't know what store he went into.
Okay, so you did not see him with the shopping cart in his hand.
I saw him pulling out the shopping carts, and it came crashing into my car.
Madam, I want to know exactly what it is that you saw. Don't make anything up.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
I read your complaint, and what you just testified to is different from your complaint. What you just testified to was you saw the little boy.
Yes, I did.
And you saw the cart hit your car.
Correct.
But you never saw his hand on the cart.
Correct.
And he said to you, "I'm sorry, it slipped out of my hand."
Correct.
Is that what you saw?
That's what happened, yes.
Is that what you saw, is my
Yes.
question. So you didn't see him trying to pull the cart out of the long row of carts, and it
Correct.
slipped out of his hand, right?
Right.
All right, because that's what you wrote in your complaint. So that was a mistake. You were mistaken about that.
Yes.
Should not be mistaken about that, because you signed it and you read it. You say, "I noticed a young boy standing on the sidewalk and pulling a shopping cart out of the cart holder." And my question to you is, you didn't see that.
I didn't see him pull the cart out.
All you saw was him standing there,
Yes.
the cart coming towards you,
Correct.
and the cart hitting your car.
Correct.
And then he yelled, "Watch out."
Yes, he did.
And then, according to you, he said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am."
Yes, he did.
He didn't say, "I'm sorry, it slipped out of my hand." That's not what you said in your complaint.
But that is what he said. He said it slipped out of my hand.
Okay. Tell me your name.
Russell Voucher,
Russell. How old are you?
9.
Have you ever watched this program?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How many times have you watched it?
A couple of times.
And I think that your mom is very proud and very supportive of you, right?
Yes.
And I think you're a nice boy.
Thank
So you're going to tell me the truth today about what happened that day, even if it was a little different from what you told your mother. Got it?
Yes.
Because otherwise, bad things are going to happen here.
Okay.
Got it? Okay. Now, your mom went in shopping,
Yes.
and at some point she told you that she needed another cart.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I went out to get another cart, and when I went out the exit, there was one right next to the exit on the left-hand side. So then I was grabbing the cart, and then I saw it going. I ran after it, and I yelled,
Now you
"Watch
grabbed
out."
the cart. Please stop right there.
Okay.
You grabbed the cart.
Mm-hmm.
How did you grab it? Show me with
this.
So you grabbed it and you touched the handlebars?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then you tried to wheel it around?
Yes.
And then what happened?
And then when I saw that shopping cart going.
So it slipped out of your hand?
Because like there was two carts. I was grabbing one out of the cart stack, and then there was one on the side of the exit. I was grabbing the one out of the car stack. I didn't grab it completely. It was halfway out, but it wasn't that one that went. It was the one next to the exit that went.
Okay,
And
but
I
you
ran
touched
after
it. Your car touched it. The one that you were pulling touched it.
Yes.
And then you went inside. When you went inside, did you tell your mother?
Yes.
What did you tell your mother?
That I saw a cart that was rolling down. I started running after it, and then I couldn't catch it. I said, "Watch out!" And then that's all I told her.
But you didn't tell her about the fact that you were touching the cart with the other cart, and that's when it started to roll down.
No.
All right, she's going to love you anyway. Right, Mrs. Boucher?
Yes.
Not hard. You sent him outside to do a job that perhaps he wasn't equipped to do. I certainly have some trouble trying to get those carts out of those cart holders, too, when we go shopping. You pull one, and all of a sudden you get 30. You don't want 30, all you want is one. But I'm very glad you told the truth today. Okay?
Yes.
Good. Got it, Mrs. Boucher? It's a little different.
Right.
Not a major deal. Good for you.
Thank you.
Told the truth today? If you had told your mother the truth right then and there, we might have avoided this whole problem. So you have to remember that for the future, okay?
Yes.
How much is the cost to fix your car?
$601.
Wow, let me see. What kind of a car do you have?
I have a 2004 Toyota Highlander.
Let me see. You have pictures of the car?
Yes.
There's a ding in it.
Yes, that's it.
There are two dings.
The shopping cart, it dinged it.
Well, I'm going to give you some advice, okay? I also have a very nice car, and somebody last week dinged my brand new car, and we called the ding doctor. And for $150, the ding doctor comes to your house and pulls out the ding. Not 600, 150. And I am sure, where do you live?
In Rancho Cucamonga.
Oh, that's in California.
Yes.
Where every person has 9 cars. I guarantee you, you will find a ding doctor for $300 that will come and pull out these 2 dings in your car. Okay? Not 600. Charge them for the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all. Thank you.
19-year-old nanny Stephanie Goodall is suing her former employer, 26-year-old Wendy Elder, for a fraudulent check she cashed on Wendy's behalf.
Bird, you got to listen to this very carefully. I don't always ask you to do it, but this one is just one of those.
I will pay attention.
Okay. Miss Goodall was Miss Elder's nanny.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to the complaint, Miss Elder, according to her, received a check from some relative. And the check, for some reason, was made out to Miss Goodall, because according to Miss Elder, this relative was old. And she asked Miss Goodall to cash the check. Miss Goodall deposited the check for $1,850 in her checking account, and then slowly, over the course of several days, withdrew the money and gave it to Miss Elder. It turns out that the check bounced. Now, Miss Elder got the cash and spent it.
Of course.
Miss Goodall got the shaft, because her bank wants their money.
Sure.
Miss Elder is outraged that Miss Goodall is suing her, and she's going to explain why. Go.
Your Honor, I didn't write those checks. They were not in my name, they were in her name. I spoke to my relative over the phone. I explained to him that we were having a nanny for my brother's wedding, and he offered to pay expenses and nanny expenses. And I said,
okay. Just a minute. You're adding that to your answer, by the way. That's not what you said in your answer. What you said in your answer was that a relative of your husband's agreed to help you with trip expenses, not nanny expenses, trip expenses.
Trip and nanny expenses, Your Honor.
Listen to me. Correct?
Yes,
because
Your Honor.
you say this is a relative of your husband's.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I assume your husband has a job?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what about you?
I'm a stay-at-home mom of 2.
You're a stay-at-home mom. Do you have a home?
We live in an apartment.
Do you pay rent?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have a car?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your husband has a job?
Yes, Your Honor.
You pay telephone, gas, electric?
Yes, Your Honor.
You pay them by check or cash?
We pay them by money order.
So your husband gets his paycheck, and what does he do with it?
We go
Don't think fast. What does he do with his paycheck?
He cashes it.
Where?
At the bank.
What bank?
Wells Fargo.
Is that where you keep your account? You
No,
can't cash a check there unless...
It's drawn on there.
What kind of work does he do?
A grocer. He's a grocery manager.
How long has he worked there?
11 years.
Is there any reason why you don't have a checking account? Is not an answer. Most people have a reason. If they have a job for 11 years, they have a wife, they have 2 children, they have an apartment, they have gas, electric, telephone. Most people have checking accounts. So don't give me an answer that's not going to sit well with me, Miss Elder. Why don't you have a checking account?
We're unable to get one.
Why?
Bankruptcy.
They won't give you a
last 2 years.
checking account because you have a bankruptcy?
In the last 2 years, yes, Your Honor.
No, my dear. You may not be able to get a checking account because you've committed bank fraud before. That's a possibility.
I've never done that before, Your Honor.
Maybe your husband has.
No, he's not, Your Honor.
Well, if you have a bankruptcy, you can still get a checking account. All you have to do is put money in it.
We have
But
a
you
savings
can-
account.
Well, you have a savings account. Well, then you can open up a checking account in the same bank that you have a savings account in. So there's a reason why you don't have a checking account. You have to do the explanation to me how you got the money, she got the shaft, and how she has nerve to sue you. You have an answer?
No, Your Honor.
So why didn't you give her money back?
Because it wasn't, I don't have that money. I didn't give it to her.
She wasn't paid by your relative. There's a difference if your relative said, I'm going to pay your nanny, and he gives her a bad check. She cashed the check and gave the cash to you. Don't you catch the difference?
I catch the difference, Your Honor, but it wasn't, she didn't give me the whole cash.
How much money did she give you? How much money did you give her?
I gave her $1,900, Your Honor.
I have record of $1,500.
So, let's say I believe you now that we're getting to $1,500. She gave you the cash. Why shouldn't you give it back to her if the check was bad?
Well, my relative or my husband's relative should give it to her, not I.
Can I say something? I have record that shows that this was from her account, not from her relative.
Just a second. Maybe the records that you have are going to help me figure out whether she's a thief or dumb.
Okay.
Let me see.
Right there.
Bakersfield Police Department advised that the account on which the check was drawn belonged to Christopher and Wendy Elder. However, the account was closed by the bank in August 2001. That makes you a thief instead of just stupid. Now, that's from the police department.
Well, they didn't talk to me at all.
I don't care whether they don't have to talk to you. Explain it to me. The account had been yours. It was closed in 2001.
I don't see how that's possible. We have record that it's still open.
Is what you're telling me now that you acknowledge this is your account? Listen to me, Miss Elder. I'm going to advise you right now, because I feel as if it's my responsibility to advise you, that we are taping this, and that I plan on sending this tape to the local law enforcement authority in Bakersfield. So far, you are very close to admitting to bank fraud. And I feel as if without having the benefit of consulting with an attorney, you would do very well to say to me, I don't think I want to answer these questions anymore, Judge. Because what you say in your answer was, listen, it wasn't my bank account, it was my relative's thing about it. Now we come to a fact from your mouth that it was a bank account that belonged to you and your husband. You said, and my relative. Maybe, maybe not. But if it belonged to the three of you and a bad check was written on it and you knew that it was an account that had no funds in it, that's bank fraud, for which you can go to jail. And my sense is, if you are a woman who doesn't have a checking account and who has a husband who's worked in the same place for 11 years, you are no stranger to problems with banks. Do you follow my drift?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want to answer my questions anymore?
No, Your Honor.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,900. That's all.
Carrie Van Druff is suing her ex-boyfriend, Brian Dodds, for money loaned when he fell on hard times. Brian says Carrie offered him the money.
Bert, I have a couple of questions for you. Would you say that 100 times as many women loan money to men in our experience as the other way around?
At least.
I don't understand why women are always loaning money to men. I don't get it. They're supposed to be bigger. They're supposed to be stronger. They're supposed to be the hunters. They're supposed to be king of the jungle. And they're always walking around with their hand out. What I still don't understand is, I've asked the women over and over again, why do you want to give this guy money? You know? And I'm not able to get an answer, but what I'm going to try to do from now on is to get the answers from men who look as if they're ordinary guys. Why did you take money from her, Mr. Dodds?
Your Honor, at the time, it was the case that I was very, very short.
Why were you short?
I went through a pretty nasty divorce, and my ex-wife was taking me to court about every other week, and my lawyer was just killing me in fees. And at the time, I mean, it was coming up to Christmas time, everything. I was extremely short-handed of cash. That's all there is to it.
What do you mean it was coming up to Christmas? What does the time of year have to do with it?
I've got 2 daughters. I was really concerned how Christmas was going to turn out.
So you wanted to buy Christmas presents for your daughter, so you borrowed money?
No, that's not what happened, Your Honor. She knew that I was short of cash, and she just straight out just offered it, and I did refuse it, that no, I couldn't ask that of you. And she said, that's what friends do, and I'd like to do that for you. And it was with reluctance that I took it. I'm not one that likes to take handouts.
How long after that, Mr. Dodds, did you and the plaintiff stop seeing each other?
Maybe 2 months.
Was that a mutual decision or your decision?
It was my decision to stop seeing her.
Well, if it was your decision and you're a moral person, because clearly you were worried about your daughters coming up and not having Christmas presents in December, why didn't you start to pay her back?
Shortly after I told her that, we were going to stop seeing each other.
Did you just tell her, or did you send her a letter?
I sent her an email, I believe, actually,
Sent her an
and I
email.
kind of explained to her.
That wasn't until February.
Go ahead.
And I explained to her why, decided not to see her anymore. And
right.
And it was just shortly thereafter that she became very, very nasty, and she accused me of giving her an S. So it really concerned me. So I started going to different doctors, and I had some tests done to make sure that that was not the case. I was pretty concerned about that. So now I've got doctor bills that I have incurred because of her being spiteful or vindictive or whatever reason.
So in the email where you explained that you were breaking up with her, Mr. Dodds, did you say to her, and I know that I took some money from you, and I know it wasn't a loan at the time, but I consider it my moral obligation to give you the money back, so I'm going to start sending it to you. Was that included in your email?
I don't recall. At the time...
Let's say no.
No.
Let's say it wasn't included in your email. Now, how do you think that that made her feel? She gets this email from you after she's given you this money because she was a good friend, and she insisted on helping you out so that your girls would have a Christmas. And then you send her this Dear John email, because we're living in the 21st century. And the email has nothing to do with her $510. So she gets vindictive and nasty. That's what women do. That's what they do. You're lucky all your pants weren't cut in half. Ms. Vandrow,
yes.
You have 10 seconds to convince me that this was a loan and not, I want to help you because you're my friend. And if you want to say, I can't do it, I'm more than willing to hear it. I have humiliated him sufficiently. What's your pleasure?
Well, first of all this started about the same day that I did give him the money. He made a down payment on some land as well. Now, my problem is why in the world did he make a down payment on land if he couldn't afford his rent?
When did you find out about that?
I believe it was the same day or just before I gave him the check.
And you continued to date him?
Unfortunately.
You continued to share his home with him for a while.
I wasn't living with him.
I don't care whether you were living with him or not. You get my drift,
Yes.
madam?
Yes.
That's also what women do. They'll make excuses. They'll go through all kinds of mental gymnastics to justify bad behavior. So, you've had your 10 seconds and you haven't convinced me that this was a loan.
I don't feel it was a loan.
It wasn't. It was a gift.
I mean, I gave him the money, and I did want to go ahead and help him, but he did send me an email stating that he would repay it.
Oh, let me see that. I would, listen, I would love to, in addition to humiliating him, give you a judgment.
And so if it was not a loan, why would he send me the email?
Oh, fine. Wednesday, April 20th. I will also be paying you back. If it's in installments, that's the best I can do right now. That's what you said to her.
Yes, ma'am, that's right. At that time, I'd tell her just about anything just to get her off my back.
Fine. Well, that's great. Well, that's what you told her. You said I'd be paying you back even in installments. So you didn't start?
No, ma'am, as far as I'm concerned, I don't owe her that money.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $510. You acknowledged the debt, sir. You said paying you back. That's all. Step out.
Basil Aziz is suing comedy club owner Jay Robertson for the cash prize from a Player of the Year contest. Jay says Basil was the only contestant to show up.
Mr. Aziz, according to your complaint, Mr. Robertson is the owner of a club that you have been to in the past, and you saw some sort of an advertisement that indicated that on a particular day he was going to have a contest. You claimed that you went to the contest, that you won the contest and that Mr. Robertson didn't pay I think it was $1,000. Is that right? That
Yes.
he indicated in the flyer was going to be the prize. Mr. Robertson's defense is that not enough people showed up, so that the contest never took place.
Correct.
Okay. Can I see the flyer that notified the public about this contest? Your club is in Virginia, sir?
Yes.
What kind of club is it?
It's a comedy club.
And you had these prepared?
Yes, I did.
Where did you send them?
They was on all sides of town, all over.
Okay. It says $1,000 to be awarded to the Player of the Year. Now, according to your complaint, Mr. Aziz, there was an entrance fee.
I paid that.
I don't see it where it said there was an entrance fee here. What was the entrance fee?
$50 or $100.
Well, who made the decision whether it was 50 or 100?
I did. Originally, how it was all going to be set up, it's going to be $150.
How come you didn't put that down here, sir?
Because I put on, the reason why I put it on there so more people can call. That's why I put on there for more info, call.
Okay. And when people called, what did you tell them?
That's when I was telling them that it was $150. With the $150, that would take care of you, you know, far as for drinks and everything, plus entering into the contest.
Okay. All right, Mr. Aziz. You got to the club on June 4th?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you pay when you got there?
$50.
Who did you give the money to?
The lady at the door.
What was the name of that lady?
That was the ticket lady. Her name was Lisa. And how it was set up, Lisa was to inform anyone who wanted to do the contest. That particular time, we has changed everything from the $150 to whereas that if you want to do the whole contest, it would be $100.
You can't do, Mr. Robertson.
He changed it too much.
Let me explain something to you. You can't do that, sir. What you're telling me is depending upon your mood, how you felt, or whatever. Sometimes you told people that it was $150. Then it was something else because you changed all the rules.
Well, all the rules...
Mr. Robertson, you can't do that, sir.
All the rules stayed the same. And how the whole contest was supposed to be set up was, I had 5 women. That was going to be a panel. You had to go up on the stage. You had to explain to them why you should be the Player of the Year. They was going to tally up their votes. That never happened.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mr. Robertson. How come it never happened?
Because the only person that really came, because after, when I got back to the club...
The only person that came was?
Right here.
Do you know what that makes him? You know what that makes him? Player of the Year.
Thank you. Go ahead, tell me. You want to tell me? He never told me.
Mr. Robertson, when you run a contest and you have somebody that enters, like he did, and paid his money, and you didn't get enough people so that it could be the kind of event you wanted, but there were a lot of people in your club that night, right? How many people were in the club?
I had...
How many people were in the club?
I had a lot of ladies at that particular time.
Right.
And then later on, that's when...
You had a lot of ladies. Would you say you had 200 people?
Something like that.
Line was
All
around
right.
the corner.
Hey. You had 200 people, and was that a usual Saturday night, sir?
Something like that.
Did you have more ladies that Saturday night than you usually have?
Yeah, at that particular time.
You think that's because you advertised the Players' Ball?
Well, that was the catch, to get the ladies to
Right. So you got what your advertising paid for, Mr. Robertson. Now you have to pay up. The winner. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all. Thank
Parties
you.
are excused. You may step out.
19-year-old Preston Wamsley is suing neighbor Audrey Martinez and her son, 17-year-old Chris Rivera, for the cost of a Mitsubishi Eclipse. Preston claims Chris totaled the vehicle.
You and the defendants are neighbors. This is?
Christopher Rivera.
17.
Yes.
And this is your mother. At some point, Christopher came to your house and asked if he could borrow your car. You knew he was 17.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is not an answer in court. Is fine outside here. You
Yes, Your
say
Honor.
yes, no, whatever. Your Honor is a nice touch. He said he needed your car so he could take his sister to school.
Yes.
But that was a partial truth. You know what that means?
I'm not sure.
It means it was only partially true, half true. A little piece of it was true. Some of it was a lie. You didn't just want to take your sister to school. You did something else with the car, right?
Yes.
What else did you do with the car?
I gave my cousin a ride home.
And after you gave your cousin a ride home, then what else did you do with the car?
And I let April drive it.
Who's April?
Some girl.
Was she in the car?
Yes.
I didn't get that part of the story. How did April get into the car?
Because she was with my cousin.
How old is April?
17, I believe.
I want you to keep your voice up. You don't mind my yelling at him, do you?
No, ma'am.
Yes. And April wrecked the car.
Yes.
So, Mr. Wamsley, you expect Mrs. Martinez to pay for your car.
Yeah, and I was under the impression that he had a license.
I don't care whether you thought he had a license to drive race cars or drive a ship to the moon. You have no right to loan a car to a minor. None. Now, I read your complaint and you said, well, you thought he had a license because you saw him driving around in his mother's car.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Well,
Your
his
Honor.
mother wants to be a jerk and let him drive around in her car. That's her prerogative and her problem. But how do you know that his mother gave him permission to drive around in her car? Maybe he was just driving around in it when she wasn't home. Is that possible?
It could be, yes.
Sure. Does your son have a driver's license?
No, ma'am.
You ever give him permission to drive your car?
No.
You drive your mother's car?
Yes.
Where's your mother when you drive her car?
At home.
Does she know you drive her car?
No.
See what I mean? As a matter of fact, if he was injured while in your car that you let him borrow, she would sue you and would have collected. Do you understand? When you're dealing with a minor, and he's a minor, he's a stupid minor, and he's dishonest, right?
Yes.
You do not do anything that would require parental permission, because when you talk in terms of minors, they are referred to as minors in the law because they're too stupid to make their own judgments. He's too stupid to make his own judgment. And you gave him a weapon. Was April hurt?
No, ma'am.
Anybody hurt?
No, ma'am.
You are a very lucky man, sir. You should go home and thank your lucky stars that somebody isn't suing you and taking your house away. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Intuitive counselor Rosemary Guerra is suing her colleague, psychic Elizabeth Wines, for the return of money she paid for business leads.
Ms. Guerra, it is your claim that the defendant owes you for some sort of an investment that you made with her towards some future business. Each of you at least makes a living or an avocation of being a psychic.
Right.
And according to you, you gave Miss Wines some money. What did you give her money for?
I gave her $1,500 in reference to some promises she had made in order for us to work events like fashion shows, concerts, special events.
What was she supposed to do for the $1,500?
She was supposed to introduce me to her friend Stacy. That's supposed to put us into events in order for us to work as intuitive readers or psychics. And she had promised me a lot of different events and different parties, 38 events for this year, and that never materialized.
Miss Wines, what was the $1,500 for?
Leads.
Leads?
Leads for events.
And when did she give you the $1,500?
In February.
How long had you known Miss Guerra?
Well over 3 years.
And you told her that this $1,500 was to secure leads for her?
Correct. To take place in June.
How many leads did you give her?
We never got that far.
Just a minute. This is what we have. We have $1,500 given to you to provide her with leads for events. How many leads did you give her?
She would not talk to me to pick out the events.
Okay, so the answer is you gave her no leads.
Absolutely none.
Then you have to give her money back. Your contract is she gave you the money to give her leads. You didn't give her any leads. She gets her money back.
She needed to pick the events. Not all the events are appropriate for psychic.
Show me any correspondence that you have between February and June asking her to pick out the events for the $1,500.
When I contacted her in April, or we mean when the producer contacted her in May, asking her to work the events, and she refused. Is that what you say?
That's hearsay. You have to give her back her money, Miss
Okay.
Wines. You have to stop whining and give her back her money. Do you understand? You didn't provide the service for which the $1,500 was designed. You didn't perform the service. Maybe you'll do it sometime in the future. Maybe you can all sit down and figure that out. But right now, you didn't provide her with what she contracted for. So you have to give her her money back. It's very simple, right? Perfect. Goodbye. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500.
Parties are excused when they step out.
23-year-old is suing Tiffany Johnson Cross for crashing into her car in the parking lot of their apartment complex.
Why didn't you have insurance on your car?
I didn't have insurance at the time. I didn't even know that it lapsed. I had a change of address put in, and my insurance was not mailed to the address that I was residing at. So once I spoke with them, I didn't know that the date was up.
Let's go back, Ms. Cross. Where were you living?
I was living in Forest Park, and then I switched. I'm now in an apartment at Fairfield, but they didn't know that.
Do you have a lease where you're presently living?
Yes, I do.
When did the lease start?
It started in the end of November.
Of 2009?
Yes.
And on what date did your insurance lapse?
My insurance lapsed on 2/19/2010.
Go over there and show me where the accident happened, because each of you claimed that the other caused the accident that we're talking about, and this was in your building. Go over and show me what you were doing.
I was driving.
She was behind you?
Yes.
And she acknowledges she was behind you, because I read your answer.
Yes.
You were behind her. Go ahead.
I was driving down. I was trying to turn right into my parking spot.
Do you have assigned parking?
No.
So you go where there is an open spot?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
I was turning right into my parking spot when she tried to go around me to the right, and which led her to coming, hitting my passenger door and fender.
So she went around you on the right?
Yes, ma'am.
And where those lines are, I assume there were
these lines?
Empty spaces?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, you can step back. Now you go over, Miss Cross, and show me your version of what happened. You're behind her.
Yes, I was behind Miss Cawley, and she turned to the left. These spaces here were full. It was 9:30 at night. There were no spaces right here. She turned to park to the left. I proceeded to go past her because she did a complete left turn. When I proceeded to pass her, Miss Cawley, I guess she may have saw another space, and she wrapped back around to the right, and she hit me.
I'd like to see pictures of the car. I want to see pictures of your car. You hit her. She didn't hit you.
No, the damage to my car was more than that, but because of the apartment place we live in.
You hit, I'm looking at her car. You hit her car with the front of your car.
No, the damage is actually on the side. If you look at the other pictures, it's actually on the side of my vehicle, and that's on the corner. It's not in the front.
Middle of her car.
Where is
front
that? Because I didn't
of
hit
your car.
I didn't hit the middle of her car. I hit the front of her passenger side.
Perfect. That's exactly what I said.
No, I'm not saying that I hit her. What I'm saying is that's where our cars collided.
Listen, Miss Cross.
Yes.
I know exactly what happened, and you had no insurance. Did you ask her to report the accident a couple of days later so that you could have your insurance reinstated?
No, I did not.
You didn't?
And it wasn't because I didn't have insurance. At the time, I didn't know that it had lapsed until I called to talk to my insurance company, and then that's when they told me. I immediately reinstated my insurance.
Go ahead,
I did not
Ms.
hit
Coley.
her car. She hit me.
Go ahead, Ms. Coley. No, you hit her. That's why we're here, for me to make that decision. I can see from the pictures you hit her.
I don't see how you get that from the pictures.
Listen, you want to look at them? You can. But that's what my job is, to look at it, to look at that, to listen to the story, and to make a judgment as to whether or not you were trying to get around her because you were trying to exit and she was trying to park. I don't think you were trying to get her parking space. I don't think that you...
No, I don't even live over that area.
Only one attitude here, and that's mine. You weren't trying to get her parking space. You were probably trying to exit. But you hit her car because you couldn't wait an extra 2 seconds for her to pull into the spot.
No, I could have waited. She turned left with no
Listen to me.
signal.
You can't talk over me.
No, I can't.
That's what the pictures show, that you hit her car. That's what the damage to her car show, that you hit her car. That's what the damage on your car shows, that it was the front of your car that hit her car. It's exactly what she describes in here, that you went around her.
How did I go around her if she turned to the left?
Okay, can I see your estimate, please?
That's the actual estimate right there.
You still living there?
No, ma'am.
When did you move?
I moved at the beginning of April.
Was your lease up?
No, ma'am.
Why did you move?
I moved because I had 2 jobs. I lost my main job because of the fact they shut down, so I moved back in with my parents.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,954. You count the claims dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Juanita Nuno is suing her daughter, Carolyn Torres, for a loan to bail her grandson out of jail. Juanita says she may lose her home to foreclosure.
Ms. Nuno, this is your daughter, and according to your complaint, you made your daughter a series of loans. She hasn't paid you back. Your daughter says, yes, it's true that you gave her some money. They were gifts. You do that to all your relatives, and you're singling her out for repayment of these gifts because she had a fight with your other daughter. Is that right, Ms. Torres?
Yeah, that's right.
What did I just say?
I owe her money, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. They're gifts. To me, they're gifts. I heard what you just said.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Did you have anything to drink today?
No, I don't drink.
You use any drugs today?
No, I don't.
Well, then explain to me what your problem is, Ms. Torres.
I don't have a problem.
Who is that?
My kid's father.
Do you live with him?
When I want to, I don't know, when I want him there, I guess.
Step up, sir. What's your name?
Anthony Torres.
How long have you been with Miss Torres?
About 20, 21 years, off and on.
Do you work?
Yeah.
Your wife suffer from a disability?
No.
Well, is there something wrong with her today? She seems to be out of sorts today.
Well, because I
Mr.
don't
Torres.
think she should be suing me, that's why.
Why did you agree to come here?
I don't know.
Did you discuss coming here with your wife, Mr. Torres?
Yeah.
Why did she come?
Because it's a lawsuit and she needs to come.
Juanita Nuno says her daughter, Carolyn Torres, owes for a loan for bail. Juanita says she posted her grandson's bond after he was arrested for burglary.
Now, if you've been with Mrs. Torres for 20-some-odd years, then you are the father of this young man who got himself into trouble last year?
Yes, I am.
And the first loan, according to you, Ms. Nuno, was for bail for your grandson.
Yes, it was.
What was he arrested for?
The jack broke into a school.
So he was arrested for burglary?
Yeah.
Did you call your mother and ask her for bail?
Yeah.
What did
But
you say to
he called
her?
her first, though. He called and I called after.
Who called?
I think my son called first, and then my niece called me, and then I called her back.
And when you called your mother, what did you say to her?
Bail him out. I don't have the money.
And what did she say to you?
She said, what happened? And I explained to her what happened. The jack broke into a school, so can you bail him out? She does everybody else, so I figured she'd do him.
Why didn't you bail him out?
Like I said, I don't have the money.
Well, how do you support yourself?
By his child support checks.
Well, you live together. Why does he send you child support checks?
Well, when I want to get, I'll call him. He doesn't really live with me.
Miss Nuno, you really expect her to pay you back?
Yes.
From what?
She applied for Social Security, and she was supposed
What was the nature of her disability?
She has arthritis in the spine. That's inherited. It comes down the line. All of us have it. So she applied for Social Security disability.
Yeah.
And they were going to grant it to her. All she needed to do was take a physical exam.
So you expected her to pay you back out of her disability from the government?
Well, not only from that, but from my son-in-law. And I believe him because he never lies.
Well, did he promise to pay you back?
He said he would pay me back. He would pay the bonds people, so that would be good enough.
Is that right, sir?
Yeah, that's right.
So why didn't you pay her?
I intend to, I just haven't had the chance to do it.
It's a year and a half ago, almost 2 years. When are you going to do it?
As soon as I can.
So after they didn't pay you the $1,600, 6 months later you gave her another $2,000. You want to tell me why?
Because I beat her daughter. That's why. That's exactly what happened. She lent me money to move out because I beat her daughter for stealing my child support check.
No, Judge Judy.
Yes, that's what happened.
I billed Anthony out in November.
You got $1,600, Ms. Nuno. What's the $2,000 for?
For getting me out of her house. I was staying with her for 2 months.
Why were you staying there for 2 months?
Because my stupid son, we lost our house in Redlands, so I had to go move in with her because of what he did.
How many other children did you move in with?
5.
How old are your children?
15, 14, 10, and 3. And my son, Anthony, that's 18. He's 18.
You have a 3-year-old child?
Yes, I do.
How did you, with your terrible disability, have a 3-year-old child?
I I guess. I don't know how. Well, how else am I going to have a kid?
Judge Judy, you wouldn't believe it. You will not believe this. I had her put in a convent in Mexico. I had tried to educate her day one, and you know...
That's what she went wrong when she sent me to Mexico. She never should have ever sent me to Mexico when I was 10 years old. Never.
Do you have anything you want to say to me, sir?
He didn't say nothing.
No.
I'm not speaking to
Well,
you.
he's not going to say anything.
I'm not...
You still won't say nothing, though.
I'm not speaking to you.
Well, I'm speaking to you. I'm telling you, he won't say nothing.
Listen to me very carefully, Miss Torres. You've already shamed yourself in front of a lot of people.
I don't care.
You have a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old who can all understand everything that's going around them. I feel very sorry for them, and I guarantee you that if you live alone with your children now, I'm putting in a call to social services to go and monitor your home if these children are in fact living with you. Are they living with her? Are the children living with her?
Yeah.
Well, somebody's going to monitor it. You're not there, is that right?
Most of the time, no.
Listen, Ms. Nuno, there is no question in my mind that having spent 10 minutes with your daughter, you had no reasonable expectation that that $2,000 was going to get repaid to you. Maybe the bail money, because you say that you had confidence in your son-in-law, and he says that he agreed to pay you back and he just hasn't gotten around to it yet. Mr. Torres, you have to find something to do with your time other than make children, sir. You have enough children. You have 5 children. And based upon what I've heard, you're not doing too well. And neither are your children. So you have to find some other way of occupying your spare time, like getting a second job, so you can support everybody, so they can all live together and not scam the government anymore. Do you understand me, Mr. Torres? This is all one huge scam you've been living with her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. That's all. Step out.
Eric Enham says ex-girlfriend Michelle Hamlin owes for breaking a lease and an unpaid loan. Michelle is countersuing for vandalism to her car and punitive damages.
How old are you, Mr. Enham?
18.
And you?
21.
You have 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
1 and 3. I mean 4.
And Mr. Enham is not the father of either of those children?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Enham.
Yes, ma'am.
According to the complaint that you filed in this case, you met the defendant and subsequently decided to lease a house with her. Both of you to the lease. She moved in, subsequently moved out with her 2 children. You want her responsible for her half of the rent for the duration of the lease.
Correct.
Ms. Hamlin says that you are a violent, vicious person, that you abused her and her children.
There's a lie, Your Honor.
Shh, just a minute. And she is counterclaiming. That's what the case is about. All right. When did you sign this lease?
January 18, 2005.
And when did she move out?
May 28th, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding her moving out.
She moved out in April.
Why did she move out? You don't know. Why did you move out?
I moved out because he was abusive to me and my children. He would hit my daughter, spank her when she would cry, give her bruises. He would hit my son when he would do something wrong. He just really abused me, and just that's why I moved out. So
I didn't ask you for any
Yes,
information,
ma'am.
sir. Are you still living in the house?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Do you plan on staying in the house?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a new roommate?
No, ma'am.
Plan on getting one?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I don't want to go through the same thing again.
So you can afford the rent yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you get any child support for your children?
I do, Your Honor, but I do not receive it.
You mean there's an order for child support?
Yes, but I do not receive it.
Why not?
The dad's not working, and he's just not responsible.
Do you get any other assistance for your children?
Nope. Just me working, that's it.
Did the children visit your family?
Yes, they do.
You know her family, I assume. Are you related to her?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
How are you related to her?
I reside with Michelle's mother. We've been together for 7 years, and I can testify of an harassment at Michelle's place of employment on one occasion.
What's your name?
My name is Jeffrey Bell, Your Honor.
Mr. Bell, do you remember the date of the alleged harassment?
It was shortly after Eric damaged
Give me a month.
May 2005. Sorry about that.
And tell me what you observed in May of 2005.
I witnessed Eric and 2 young ladies at Michelle's restaurant. After they had their meal, I watched Eric have his arm around this young lady. I considered it taunting Michelle at work. After they were close to the door, the two young ladies started arguing with the hostess and manager, stating that poor service, they want the manager's telephone number. I got up from my seat. I approached Eric right at the door.
Now, Mr. Bell, don't talk to him.
Yes, ma'am. And I did walk up to him and told Eric that I'm sure that you have some things to work out with Michelle, but please be cool. I shook his hand like a gentleman, and the next thing we know, the car's being vandalized, and if I knew that those children were abused...
Just a second, Mr. Bell.
Yes, ma'am.
If you knew that the children were abused, what would you do?
I would have wrung his neck.
What about her?
I would have taken care of her, too.
What
Your
about her, Mr. Bell? She's the mother. I read...
I love her, Your
just
Honor.
a second.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
may love her.
Yes, I do.
But I read her complaint, and I'm not so interested in this half rent that Mr. Enman wants her to pay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because right now he's living in the house, and if he wants to get a roommate, he can do it. He told me a moment ago he has no interest in doing that because he can afford the rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
So he's going to stay there. So I'm not so interested in his complaint. I'm interested in her answer and her counterclaim. So I think that if you're going to be mad at somebody, if you believe any of this was going on,
Yes.
and I'm not so sure.
Okay. May I explain just one
No,
more
don't
point, please?
explain anything yet, because I'm going to get to some dates.
Yes, ma'am.
Your girlfriend's daughter, that's who this is, your girlfriend's daughter
Yes, ma'am.
says in March of 2005, he was fired from his job.
No, I quit.
You quit your job.
Correct.
Whatever, fired. When he came home, we started to argue about money. He walked away from me and got into his car. So far, okay? They were arguing. He got into his car to leave.
Yes.
Prior to that, a few weeks after they had moved in together, so in February, they had a fight, according to her. He punched me repeatedly in the head, slapped me in my legs as hard as he could. I attempted to get away and ran outside, but he dragged me back into the house and continued to beat me. This was all in front of the children. This is what she says.
Yes, Your Honor.
All in front of the children. I pleaded with him to stop, and he finally left. A few weeks later, in March, evidently they're still together. All the while, he's abusing her children and abusing her, beating her, none of which you saw any evidence of, by the way. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Then in March, he was, according to her, fired from his job. He came home, they started to fight. He walked away to get into his car. So he walked away. Now, this is somebody that has beat her, dragged her into the house, punched her. So instead of saying, oh, he's leaving, I can get my stuff and my children and get out of here, right? Let's see what she does. Want to know what she says she does?
Yes, ma'am, please.
I followed him to finish talking. I knocked on his window to get his attention. You find that odd, Mr. Bell?
At this point, yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay. He jumped out of the car and he hit me. I ran into the house and locked myself in our bedroom with my children. When I wouldn't let him in, he kicked down the door and threw me on the bed and continued hitting me. Just a second, are you getting mad at him?
Yes.
I don't believe her. Now, there's got to be something wrong with somebody who has family at home. You look like a very nice man. You live in the same town?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So we have somebody who has a mother who's clearly close to her. You have somebody who stands in what we call in French, in loco parentis, like a father to her, because you say you love her, lives close by, who she can go to. So according to Ibiza, that I assume you see her regularly.
Yes.
Right? She's still with him.
Yes.
They have another fight, but he leaves. He doesn't hit her. He doesn't touch her. She runs out of the house after him because she's not finished talking. Doesn't sound right to me. Does it sound right to you, sir?
Well, young people act a little differently, but to me, no, Your Honor.
All right. And this is, we're still talking March.
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't leave in March.
No, she did not.
When did you leave?
Like the middle of April.
Your counterclaim says on April 29th, in a fit of rage, he came to my job and saw me talking to one of my coworkers. But according to you, he had your daughter in the car, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what was he doing with your daughter in the car?
He was taking care of her while I was at work.
Right. And he took care of both of your children while you were at work.
He picked them up from the daycare. He chose to pick them up from daycare.
How often did he pick them up from daycare?
Mostly every day.
So after, according to you, he's been abusing your children since February, March, April. You allow him, unsupervised, to go and pick up your children? You understand me, Mr. Bell?
Yeah, I see your point, Your Honor.
Something doesn't ring true, Mr. Bell.
Up to this point, yes, Your Honor.
Well, that's the testimony so far. I'm practically finished with the complaint and the answer. I mean, I don't have voluminous papers here. I have somebody who says that he abuses her children, that he spanks her infant, spank her so hard it would leave bruises, and yet she allows him to be with her children unsupervised. If I believe it's true, she's as guilty as he is. She's the mother. They're her children.
Yes.
Her job is to protect those children. Do you understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
You chose, as a baby, to have 2 children with somebody who is totally irresponsible, who doesn't take care of his children, and then according to you, and I'm questioning the truthfulness of what you say, you hook up with somebody who beats your children, and you stay with them.
He beat your children, you tell her. He beat your children.
Go ahead.
He beat my children, and I was scared to leave in the first place because I had bought him a shotgun, and I didn't know what he was capable of doing with that gun.
When did you buy him a shotgun?
Like in March.
Just a second. You told me that the first time he hit you and beat you was in February. Why did you buy him a shotgun in March? I'll get to you in a second. Why would you buy him a shotgun in March?
Because he wanted it to have protection from the kid's father.
Mr. Bell, don't buy everything that she's telling you, sir.
May I speak just for a couple words, please?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. I know that there's been numerous complaints against Michelle's children's first father with Eric and Michelle when they first got together. Numerous harassments over telephone, verbal assaults.
You mean by the father of these 2 children?
Yes, and they were both in fear from the beginning.
Just a minute. Did she confide that in you, sir?
Oh, yes.
That the father of her 2 children was harassing?
Yes.
Threatening?
Yes.
Did she ever tell you that he was?
No.
Right. Now I'll hear you. Because I know if I don't get you up here, we may have an accident. Okay. Who are you?
I'm Anna, and I'm one of his witnesses.
Anna, you have a last name.
Arredondo.
Arredondo?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
On May 22nd of 2005, Michelle had came over to discuss some things with Eric, and
how do you know these 2 people?
I know these. I have met Michelle prior because they came over to my home, and I met her kids.
Just a second. So you're his friend?
Yes, I'm his friend.
How do you know him?
I've known him for 6 years.
Okay, so now you're going to in May.
Yes, in May, on May 22nd, 2005, Michelle came over to Eric's home, and I was heading towards the kitchen, and I overheard her tell Eric.
Just 1 second. May 22nd, you went to his house?
Yes, sir.
Did you go with the police?
No, I went with a friend.
What did you go there to discuss?
Discuss about my stuff in the house still.
Discuss your property?
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about somebody who beats you, beats your children, and you, without police protection, voluntarily went to his house.
Yes.
You got where I'm going, Mr. Bell?
I do, Your Honor.
Good. And what happened, Miss Arredondo? What did you hear?
I heard her, and I quote, if you take me to court, I'm just going to lie and tell the judge that you hit me. And Eric said, go ahead, she's just going to see that you're lying. So that's all I can witness.
That's a lie. Tell him. That's a lie, Your Honor.
I don't think so.
Eric Enum claims ex-girlfriend Michelle Hamlin broke their apartment lease and failed to repay his loan.
Okay. All I can do is look at conduct. According to you, you entered into an abusive relationship with someone with whom you had 2 children. Then you went to live with him.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, he started to abuse you as soon as you signed the lease in this house together. Seriously abusing you, beating, punching, hitting, kicking, but also did the same thing to your 2 infant children. And you continued to live with him. And when you had another fight, he wanted to leave the house, you followed him outside. And then he beat you again. And then you still continued to live with him and allowed your children to live with him. And not only did you allow your children to live with him, but you allowed him unsupervised care of your children. He was the caretaker of your children while you were working. Now, when for the first time did you report his abusive conduct to you and your children to the police?
I never reported it.
Why not?
Because I was scared if I did report it that he would do something else.
Your Honor, we haven't got to the part where he was driving recklessly with a child in the back of the car, doing donuts in the parking lot at her work.
Did you see that, Mr. Bell?
Myself, no.
So I just asked you if you saw that.
I did not see that.
Okay. Now, Mr. Edmonds says that he had the child in the car and he went to get her because why?
Because she said she was going to a party that night and going to leave me with the kids.
And what did you say to her?
So let her know you're not. You need to be home with your kids.
And she said?
She said, no, I'm not. I'm taking my kids. I'm going out.
I'm taking my kids and I'm going out.
Correct.
So what did you do?
I went to her work.
And you saw her doing what?
Being all over.
Listen to me. Go ahead.
I saw her being all over 2 other guys in the parking lot.
So you got mad?
Correct.
Were you driving around in a reckless manner in the parking lot
No,
with the child in the car?
No, ma'am.
What did you do?
I told her to get in the car and go home. And when we got to our place of residence, I pulled in the garage and the police came right behind us.
Because she had called the police?
Correct.
Had you called him that day to tell him you were going out?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you tell him you were going to be home?
Probably
Don't look down there. When did you tell him you were going to be home?
like about 12 or 1.
In the morning?
Yeah.
And who was supposed to watch the children till 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning?
I told him that I was going to go to a friend's house and watch a movie and that I would come and pick up my daughter and take her with me. He told me that...
Just a second. Where was your other child?
My other child was with his dad.
When did the other child go with his father?
In the morning time.
This is the same father who you were afraid of and you bought him a shotgun to protect the 2 of you from?
Yes, ma'am.
You got a lot of work to do, Mr. Bell. Her judgment is impaired. You don't get it. Her judgment is impaired.
She's young, and I watched her mature from a teenager to a very good mother. And she is a very good mother, Your Honor.
Impossible! Impossible if I believe what she wrote in her answer, Mr. Bell. Impossible if I believe her that she allowed her children to be in a circumstance with this man who abused her children. That makes her the worst possible mother. The worst possible mother. To sit there and watch a stranger to the children, she says, beat her baby with bruises, and you're telling me matured into a very good mother? Your judgment is impaired.
I believe sometimes, Your Honor, that love is blind. It may be
Love may be blind, and there are women who stay in abusive relationships. She clearly is one of those people who stayed, at least in her first relationship, which was abusive, although she continues to have the lunatic that she described to me before that required protection by a shotgun. She allowed that person to take her infant child. Impaired judgment. And I don't believe her. I don't believe that she was the victim of the kind of abuse she ascribes to the plaintiff. She filed not one police report. You saw no evidence of abuse on either her or her children. She didn't even file a police report after she moved. As a matter of fact, after she moved out and she was free and clear of this horrendous person who beat her and her children, she went back to his house. Is that the action of somebody who's afraid? Okay. Listen to me, sir. You get not a dime from her. You're living in a house. You're happy living there. What you are required to do in this kind of circumstance is to mitigate your damages, which means you put an ad in the internet, you put an ad in the local paper for a roommate. You chose not to do that. That's wonderful. You can afford it, live there. I don't believe your allegations with regard to your counterclaim, madam. And I think that you have to. If you made 2 children, you better get smart. Because if on the long shot that anything that you say here was true, you have so far made 2 very poor choices. And you have a responsibility to your 2 children to choose more wisely with regard to mates that you select, or else make up your mind that you're not going to have a mate for a while and you're going to rely on this gentleman and your mother as family to help raise your children. And grow up. That's all.
Ken and Cindy Slavin claim Navjot Singh owes for the refund of a miniature English bulldog. The Slavins claim the dog died en route to their home, and Navjot won't refund their money.
Mr. and Mrs. Slavin, you purchased a dog from the defendant, a dog that you saw advertised on the internet?
That's correct.
And you 2 live in 2 different states. Before the dog arrived at your home, it died. You want the return of your money, which you had sent to Mr. Singh prior to his putting the dog on a plane.
Yes.
Mr. Singh says it's not his responsibility, it's somebody else's responsibility. Right?
Correct.
Ah, okay. What kind of dog was this, Mr. Singh?
This was an English bulldog.
And how much did you charge the Slavins for this dog?
$3,600.
Why so expensive, sir?
It was a smaller version, and it's categorized under a miniature English bulldog.
Did you raise the dog?
I had him for maybe a year and a half, maybe.
That's not my question. I didn't, of course you had him. I assume that you didn't steal him. I asked you if you raised them.
Yes.
How old was the dog?
When what?
How old was the dog?
About almost 2 years old when I sold him. I have
So
a
if-
specific date right
So
here.
if you
on the
have the
certificate.
dog for a year and a half, the dog was 6 months old when you got him.
Correct.
Why are you asking me? That sounds like a question, Mr. Singh. Is that correct, that the dog was 6 months old when you got him?
Correct.
Who did you get him from?
Veronica,
For how much?
$3,500.
Was she the breeder of this dog?
Yes.
When did you put this ad on the internet to sell the dog?
The dog was never, I guess maybe January.
The dog was never what?
I really didn't want to, you know, the dog wasn't heavily advertised. It was a litter from the dog that was advertised.
This was a female or a male?
This was a male dog.
And how many puppies were born from that litter?
4.
Is that a question or an answer?
It's an answer.
Let me see the ad, please. This is not an advertisement, Mr. Slavin, for the dog that you bought, and that was Monster.
Correct.
How did you come to buy Monster?
Well, I asked him about any of the pups, were any of them left, and he said they weren't. And then I proceeded to ask, did he have any older dogs for sale?
When did you correspond with him?
About the 25th of January.
Well, this ad is for May 14th, 2005.
That's correct. I had not printed off the original ad, but that was a copy or one that's been updated stating that Monster still is at stud. So, point being, either he sent me a different dog.
Just a second. How many monsters do you have, sir?
I have one Monster. Gestation of a female dog is 63 days.
Correct.
Okay, after a female dog has her puppies.
Say anything else. You contacted him in January of 2005.
That's correct.
And he said he's left.
Correct.
And you decided to see if he would sell you Monster.
That's correct.
The 2-year-old male.
Correct.
So far correct?
Yes.
And you agreed on a price of?
$3,600.
Even though he was selling the puppies for $2,500.
Well, it sounded good. It says proven, it's had puppies before, so it would be able to use it as a stud yourself.
Well, why would you want to use this dog? Were you buying it as a pet or were you buying it to breed?
Buying it to breed. We had 2 females.
Are these miniatures?
Yes.
Now, do you have a contract with him?
No, ma'am.
When you're a breeder, you usually have contracts.
We're from the country, and every man's word should amount to what his word is, but I know that's old-fashioned.
Let me see the vet report that you have while I'm taking the rest of this testimony. Okay. Now, according to you, you put the dog on a plane.
Yes, I did.
Let me see.
And also, this is the receipt. Basically, I was called and just told to drop the dog off at this particular site at this time and this date by the Slavins. And this is the receipt that says that transportation was prepaid for. So meaning I did not have anything to do with Delta
Who
Airlines.
paid for the transportation?
They did. I didn't do anything
Okay.
with airline.
Fine. Correct. You took care of the transportation.
No, I just gave him $3,600, and he took care of it.
If you see right there, it's checked off prepaid, Your Honor.
It does, but it doesn't say it was prepaid by. Well, that's really not the issue, Mr. Singh. The real issue is whether A, you sent a sick dog, and B, more interestingly to me, how can you send a dog that clearly everybody acknowledges did not arrive alive and still advertise Monster for stud 5 months later?
I've been breeding dogs as a hobby for a while. Initially, I lived in Fresno, California. Now I'm a dental student here in Los Angeles. And basically how it works is first a female dog goes into heat every 6 months. After she's been in heat for every 6 months, you breed her, and then 63 days is gestation, meaning the dog mother carries the puppies in her stomach.
I know what 63
After
days
that,
gestation means. I went to high school.
4 months after that, you have to keep the puppy with the mother. I bred Monster before I sold him. That's why I was advertising him as the father of these puppies.
Your Honor, he's advertising that as current stud, meaning it's alive, it's current.
Both of the parents are, well, that's misleading. Both of the parents, Monster and Pup Girl, are very lightweight and especially short. Well, that's not true.
How's that not true?
Well, because Monster isn't a present. Both of these parents, Monster and Pup, Monster, who was very lightweight and short, and Pup, who I assume is still alive, is very lightweight and short. Monster was, not is. You know what the difference between was and is?
I do. I went to high school.
Oh, okay. So if you went to high school, Mr. Singh, you know. Both of the parents, Monster and Pup. Monster was a lightweight dog. He is no longer. So you can't say they are, because he isn't an R, he is a was.
But at the time the puppies were bred?
Doesn't make any difference. This is as of 7/4. You're advertising this, sir. As of 7/4, Monster is no longer alive.
And the website hasn't been updated for a while either.
That's misleading. Then it's misleading, Mr. Singh. Now, did you sell these puppies?
Yes.
Really?
They're
You
sold.
have the names of the people you sold them to?
I do.
Did you tell the people that Monster was dead?
Yes. I told him he had been sold. I told him I did not
That's
have...
not what I asked you, whether you told him he had been sold. I said, did you tell the people that bought the puppies that Monster was dead?
Correct, I did.
You did. I don't believe that, Mr. Singh.
We can have him come in.
I could, or I could just rely on my own common sense and your response to me, sir.
Okay.
That you didn't say to people who were going to spend $2,500 for a dog that the stud died.
But the death wasn't my responsibility of the dog.
Oh, I'm going to make that assessment right now, Mr. Singh.
Okay.
When did you put this dog on the plane, Mr. Singh?
2/15/05?
Well, you took the dog to the vet on 2/14.
Correct.
This dog was not a well dog when you put him on the plane, sir.
How was it not well?
You want me to tell you what he wrote in his notes about the dog?
Yes, go ahead.
What I can read.
Wait, did you get those notes from the veterinary themselves, or?
Yes.
Can I take a look at that?
Sure.
These notes on the dog, the veterinary knew this is an English bulldog, so basically she's making notes in regardless of a regular dog, but this is actually an English bulldog, so brachiocardial sounds are normal, and having a high temperature are normal with English bulldogs. In that, they're so normal that Delta has a specific policy for shipping snub-nosed dogs.
Mr. Singh, are you playing with me, sir?
No, I'm just trying to state my side.
The vet says that the dog looks like it's been chewing on its rump as well. It has very long toenails, which indicates that it has not been well cared for. I also have dogs. Green mucosoid discharge. I'm not talking about the sounds from your English bulldog, because we all know, I mean, if you're a dog lover, you know different breeds. English bulldogs have very small noses so that they breathe, they snort, they make noise. I'm not talking about that. Your vet said that the client, that was you, declined a microscopic examination, declined to have the dog's ears cleaned, declined medication, declined nail trim. You said that the dog will be traveling because the dog is a Valentine's Day gift for a friend. That's what you told, that's what the vet said you told the vet. And the vet says, underlined, see vet as soon as possible at new placement for infection. Okay? Told no food in the morning of the flight. Airline may decline boarding with eye skin infections.
Eye and skin infections are very common for English
Listen
bulldogs.
to me, sir. Listen to me, sir. You did the wrong thing. And somebody pays you a substantial amount of money, and you have a dog that the vet says needs some treatment. You are supposed to ensure that before you put this dog on a plane, this dog, bill of health, not just sufficient to travel, clean bill of health. And you didn't do that. I wouldn't buy a dog from you, sir. I would suggest that if any of the 10 million people who watch this program thinking about buying a dog, they will never buy a dog from you because you haven't done the right thing. When you take on the responsibility of being a dog breeder and you have an animal that requires a human being to take them to the doctor and make sure that they're taken care of, you're going to be a dentist, sir?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me? You're going to be a dentist?
Yes.
When somebody has a child and the child has something wrong with their mouth, the parent has the responsibility of bringing the child to the dentist. And you have the responsibility of, as the dentist, of taking care of whatever it is that that child needs, because the child can't do it for themselves. You got my drift, Mr. Singh?
I do.
Now, a small miniature English bulldog, 2 years old, if it's got mucus coming out of their eyes, mucus coming out of the nose, seems to have a trouble with biting its skin. And the vet says, you know, the dog could really be treated before you put it on a plane and send it to a new home. And you say, not necessary. As long as it's not an extremis, you give me a health certificate because it's good enough to go on a plane. This vet was not happy with the way this dog looked. And you should have seen to it that that dog was in tip-top shape before sending it off to new owners. That's what you do if you're a responsible, caring individual. So not only wouldn't I go to buy a dog from you, sir, I wouldn't let you fill my worst cavity. Because what you did was the wrong thing. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,600. That's all.
Welcome back, friends. In this video, find the odd one out. Are you ready, guys? Let's play quiz. Level 1, easy. Find the odd one out in this. Time is over. Let's see the correct answer. Next quiz. Find the odd one out in this. Time is over. Let's see the correct answer. Next quiz. Find the odd one out in this. Time is over. Let's see the correct answer. Next quiz. Find the odd one out in this. Time is over. Let's see the correct answer. Next quiz. Find the odd one out in this. Time is over. Let's see the correct answer. Level 2, medium. Find the odd one out in this. Time is over. Let's see the correct answer. Next quiz. Find the odd one out in this. Time is over. Let's see the correct answer. Next quiz. Find the odd one out in this. Time is over. Let's see the correct answer. Next quiz. Find the odd one out in this. Time is over. Let's see the correct answer. Next quiz. Find the odd one out in this.